Honourable members, let us pray. Lord, the God of righteousness and truth, grant to our King and to his government, to members of the Legislative Assembly, and to all in positions of responsibility, the guidance of your Spirit. May they never lead the province wrongly through love of power, desire to please, or unworthy ideals, but laying aside all private interests and prejudices, keep in mind their responsibility to seek to improve the condition of all. Amen. Honourable members, being that this is the first sitting day of the week, we will now be led in the singing of our national anthem by the Strathcona Christian Academy Elementary Choir. I invite all to participate in the language of their choice. Land acknowledgement. The Legislative Assembly is grateful to be situated on Treaty 6 territory. This land has been the traditional region of the Métis people of Alberta, the Inuit, and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Iroquois, and Nakota Sioux people. The recognition of our history on this land is an act of reconciliation, and we honor those who walk with us. We also acknowledge that the province of Alberta also exists within treaties number 4, number 7, number 8, and number 10 territories and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Please be seated.
Introduction of visitors. Introduction of guests.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to be able to introduce students from Sherwood Park from Lakeland Ridge Public School. They've been here learning about the legislature all day, and if I could just have them all rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Honourable members, seated in both the members and public galleries are pupils of the Strathcona Christian Academy Elementary School Choir, who just finished providing the wonderful rendition about Canada. They are accompanied by their teachers, Adrienne Roussel and Andrea Mehta, and a few parents. Thank you all for being here with us today. I invite you now to stand and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly. Honourable members, I'm also pleased to introduce constituents from Canmore, Melissa Yarmaloy and Chris Cook. Melissa and Chris run a wonderful cafe in Canmore you're all likely familiar with, Blondie's Cafe. I ask that they please rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly. Have other guests, starting with Edmonton Highlands, Norwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm so proud to rise and introduce some incredible advocates from Alberta's trans community, including Victoria Buchholz, Chris Budrum, Faye Johnstone, Shani Pinkerton, and Ashley Noak. Please rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of this Assembly.
The Minister of Agriculture and Irrigation.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you some incredible guests today. We have Megan Bergerman and Madison Dubé from the Alberta Veterinary Medical Association, as well as Leanne Niblock, Melissa Logan, Amy Weingarten, and Alex Japp from the Alberta SPCA, as well as our new Provincial Chief Veterinarian, Dr. Hussein Kashwani. I would ask that you all please rise and accept the warm welcome of this Assembly.
The member for Calgary Foothills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly, parents that are here at the Legislature today to raise the voices of their kids. Trans kids, gender diverse kids, non-binary kids. Carla, Sunday Stevens, Marika Van Tienen, and Dale Ledesser, please rise and accept the warm welcome of this Assembly.
For Edmonton Rutherford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honour to introduce to you and through you parents Dawn Zimmerman, Shalyn Newfield, Misty Cowell, and Cynthia Bale. Thank you for raising 4 extraordinary trans kids. Please rise and receive the warm welcome of the House.
Calgary Falconridge.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly, Terry W. Anthuo, Trustee for Calgary Catholic School Districts Wards 3 and 5, becoming the first black individual elected to the board since its founding in 1885. With 14 years of supporting children with special needs and as an active community volunteer, her leadership reflects a commitment to inclusion and faith. I ask that she rise to receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
The member for Sherwood Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All roads lead to Sherwood Park, but it turns out a lot of roads from Sherwood Park lead here with Strathcona Christian Academy and Lakeland Ridge here. But I want to introduce 2 students from Edmonton from Grandview School. They're in grade 9. We have Max Shipman and Owen Marchand that are here to learn about government on their free time. So will you 2 please rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
The Minister of Technology Innovation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to congratulate the students from Strathcona Christian Academy for their wonderful rendition of the national anthem. Please rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Are there more introductions? Seeing none.
Ministerial statements, member statements.
The member for Chestermere Strathmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This past weekend, New Democrats gathered in Winnipeg for their national convention, and what unfolded was nothing short of chaos. From internal squabbles over equity cards and pronouns to leadership candidate Rob Ashton shouting, "Eat the rich," to a cheering crowd. This was a convention that raised serious questions about the direction of today's NDP. It's how far we've drifted from the simple idea that every Canadian should be treated as an individual, not some demographic checkbox. And at the centre of it all was the election of Avi Lewis, a self-declared eco-socialist as the party's new leader, who, after his victory, pledged his full support for the Leader of the Opposition to become Premier of Alberta. And yet, at the same time, the Leader of the Opposition appeared to be scrambling to distance himself from his new federal counterpart. Well, that's awkward and an impossible task, given the clear constitutional ties between the federal and provincial wings of the party. Mr. Speaker, Albertans know exactly who Avi Lewis is. He's a prominent advocate of the LEAP Manifesto, called for a full ban on new pipelines and all fossil fuel development at a time when the world needs Alberta energy more than ever. And as expected, several NDP MLAs were in attendance in Winnipeg celebrating this outcome. And this is part of a long and consistent pattern of opposition against Alberta's energy sector from members of the Alberta NDP. Opposition to pipelines, opposition to development, and opposition to jobs that sustain families across our province. While the NDP drifts further towards ideological extremes, our government remains focused on what matters: building pipelines, growing our economy, and standing firmly with Alberta's energy workers. Mr. Speaker, this is the clear choice before Albertans, a party tied to radical policies that would shut down one of our most important industries, or a government that will defend it, grow it, and fight for every single job it supports. Our province was built on hard work and a thriving energy industry, and we'll never let the NDP, federal or provincial, take that away.
Calgary elbow.
Last week, Alberta's New Democrats released a first look at our energy policy. I spent my career in oil and gas, and I know the difference between the performative statements of members opposite who talk about energy versus doing something. We have spent the last weeks and months speaking with industry, stakeholders, communities, Indigenous people, and leading experts around the world to figure out how Alberta can meet this moment and be more than just a bystander, to be a world leader of the energy industry. These are difficult times. Global instability means that energy markets are getting disrupted. As everyone who's tried to fill their gas tank in the last month knows, when things are uncertain, regular people pay the price. That's why we need to take action. But the window of opportunity will close as this government flails around with performative statements instead of getting the work done. Alberta's New Democrats believe in market access for oil and natural gas. We believe in focusing our efforts on win-win solutions for other governments, local communities, and Indigenous people, for Albertans. That's why we support a new pipeline to the south coast of British Columbia following the TMX route, as well as the immediate optimization of Trans Mountain to increase capacity by over 300,000 barrels per day. That's why we believe in fixing the mess that UCP made of our electricity system by bringing back a thriving renewable sector and building electricity pipelines between us and our neighbours. And all of these plans will reduce everyone's costs and dramatically reduce emissions. That's why we believe in value-added products, ensuring that we're doing more than just shipping bitumen. And that's why we believe in expanding a critical mineral sector that will provide the world what it needs. The world needs Canadian energy, Mr. Speaker. Conservatives, with all their talk, have built 0 miles of pipeline to Tidewater. Albertans, New Democrats know how to do this. We know how to get it done.
I will remind all members that during member statements that we let that happen without interruption. And the next one that won't be interrupted is the member for Lac St. Anne Parkland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For 6 years, I've been clear about the need to formalize economic corridors. I've raised it in this House, across the country, internationally through the Council of State Governments, NCSL, Pacific Northwest Economic Region, Ports Plains Alliance, and the Energy Council. My first motion in this House was actually on economic corridors 5 years ago, and naturally, the NDP all voted against it. Spring of 2025, our Premier gave the green light to start up the Alberta India Advisory Council. Its purpose was straightforward: connect Alberta and the Indian states and create economic corridors. This January, we launched our first trade mission in India, which Energy Week was one of our core stops, and 74,000 other people from around the world joined us there. The UAE advised that they do $100 billion a year in trade with India, and they're looking to double that. Alberta, all industries in, $700 million. Obviously, we've got lots of room to grow, Mr. Speaker. Our federal energy minister, he was there to help us open our Alberta trade booth. He delivered a speech. It was clear need for pipelines to the West Coast for increased oil and gas exports. Even the new PM is on side, our Canadian PM. And let's be clear, India's Prime Minister said they'll buy everything that we can get to them, Mr. Speaker. And a sincere thank you to BPCL, Texmaco, Titagar, the Port of Paradeep, and partners in energy, rail, infrastructure, and the East Coast export for us for that coast. The Port Authority didn't just host us, Mr. Speaker, they wanted to collaborate with us. I shared Travel Alberta is what it means to be an Albertan. And as soon as we saw that, we moved quickly from talking about business to long-term trade relationships. That's why it's deeply frustrating to watch the reckless rhetoric coming from the opposition and the Tory party one. Not to mention the mainstream media coverage that keeps amplifying it. Enough is enough. The people I met abroad don't know what the NDP is like. They don't know the fear and smear storybook that they follow. The opposition's irresponsible political games threatens billions of dollars in current and future trade, not just for Alberta, but for all of Canada. It's time for the undermining of our provincial and their minor political points to stop. Put Alberta and Canada forward first, not their short-sighted petty politics.
Remember for Calgary Foothills.
Trans Day of Visibility is a pretty straightforward moment for the community. It's a day to simply be an authentic, genuine, and real version of themselves. For trans, non-binary, and gender-diverse people in every corner of our province and this country, the Trans Day of Visibility is a showcase of how ordinary and extraordinary trans people are. But this year's Trans Day of Visibility comes on the backs of a difficult time for trans people. A time where some politicians exploit fear and ignorance to weaponize hate that should have no place in our province. Take trans athletes in sport, for instance. Girls in our province who just want to get involved on teams are told they must prove their sex. Just the girls, not the boys, to participate in sport. It's discriminatory and it's wrong. Girls, including trans girls, just want to be part of a team. So instead of encouraging team sports that have been shown time and time again to benefit the mental health and social cohesion of youth, this government and others like it practice transphobia instead of practicing inclusion. On this Trans Day of Visibility, parents and loved ones of trans kids want this government to know that attacking their children is not okay. Making them feel unsafe in our province is not okay. And weaponizing the Charter's Notwithstanding clause is not okay. Our freedoms will not be taken for granted. Our rights will not be trampled on. And this Trans Day of Visibility, we stand with every trans, non-binary and gender-diverse person in this province, especially our youth, and say you are loved and you are welcome here in this place. This is your assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. March is National Engineering and Geoscience Month in Canada, a time to recognize and celebrate the professionals whose work quite literally builds and sustains our province. Engineers and geoscientists are at the heart of Alberta's success, designing critical infrastructure, supporting responsible resource development, and driving innovation across our economy. From the roads and bridges that connect our communities to the energy systems that power our homes and industries to the technologies shaping our future, these professionals play a vital role in improving the quality of life for all Albertans. Their expertise ensures that our province remains strong, competitive, and ready to meet the challenges of tomorrow. Alberta is home to some of the most highly skilled engineers and geoscientists in the world. Through organizations like APEGA, we continue to uphold rigorous standards of professionalism, safety, and accountability. These standards not only protect the public but also reinforce confidence in the work being done across our province every day. Engineering and geoscience are also central to addressing some of the most pressing challenges we face, from advancing energy innovation, environmental stewardships, to building a resilient communities and modern infrastructure. The work being done today is helping to shape a more sustainable and prosperous future for Alberta. As we look ahead, it is essential that we continue to support strong education and training pathways that prepare the next generation of professionals. By investing in skills, innovation, and opportunity, we are ensuring that Alberta remains a leader in this field for years to come. Mr. Speaker, during National Engineering and Geoscience Month, I invite all the members of this Assembly to join me in recognizing the contributions of engineers and geoscientists across Alberta. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Edmonton, Glenora.
Every Albertan did something really expensive this weekend. For some in the UCP cabinet, it might have been a trip on a private jet, box seats to a major sporting event, or rides in a chauffeured Rolls-Royce. But for most of us in everyday Alberta, the expensive thing we did was get gas or groceries on the way to the kids' game. Gas has jumped 40 cents a litre in just over a month. The UCP could reduce this price by 13 cents with a simple rule change, but instead they set up a website called Affordable Advice for Life. And what's their advice on gas, you ask? Go easy on the gas pedal, use a lighter touch, and avoid hard braking. End quote. The UCP could give us a little break by capping vehicle insurance and scrap their plan to punish victims with no-fault insurance, downloading more costs onto good drivers, but they didn't do that. Over the past 7 years, while cost of living has skyrocketed, the UCP left the lowest income workers struggling with the lowest minimum wage in Canada. But we have a Minister of Affordability. He's making $180,000 a year with an office budget of almost $1 million. That office got an 11% increase. Wow. The government website has another hot tip. Save loose change in a jar or piggy bank. Albertans need meaningful solutions, Mr. Speaker, like capped insurance, grocery competition, relief at the pumps, and an increased minimum wage. And they deserve a government that's led by people who care. But the current Premier is more focused on spending time with the Donald and Saudi royalty than standing up with workers, the working people of this province who are seeing their costs run out of control. So to the voters who chose the UCP 3 years ago because you thought they would do something on affordability, this isn't your fault. They promised they would, they broke that promise, and you know that a promise made is a debt unpaid. Well, that debt is certainly growing under the UCP because they blew a boom during the boom, and they're leaving everyday Albertans to pay that price.
That's right.
Honourable members, it is now time for oral question period, and the first question belongs to the Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when the Forever Canada petition was tabled, and remember that that's the only petition that has achieved the signatures to be verified, the Premier said she would meet with Cabinet and very quickly figure out their options. That was in December, and we've only just learned that they managed to schedule a one-hour meeting on April 21st. Meanwhile, this Premier, this weekend, told separatists that she would fast-track the separatist referendum and get it on the ballot this fall. Why the double standard? Why did it take 5 months to set a one-hour meeting?
Yeah.
The Honourable, the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a process that we go through when a citizen-initiated referenda is successful in getting the number of signatures, and that process was to establish an all-party committee, which has been done. I'm glad that they'll be meeting in April. The complexity with this issue, as the member well knows, is that the petition advocate, even though the letter of the petition said that it would go to a referendum, since changed his mind. And so that's one of the things that has to be put to the committee, whether it will come to this forum in the legislature or whether it will go to a vote of the people in October.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, as the Premier points out, the committee actually has a decision to make. It's a do-work committee, and it could have met in December.
That's right.
And yet we've waited 5 months for it to meet. Nearly 500,000 Albertans signed that petition. They followed all the rules. They were much harder than the rules the Premier has set for her separatist friends. They deserve to not be ignored. And is this because her own caucus supports separatism? She cares about a pressure release valve for separatists, but not pressure relief for proud Canadians. Why is she brazenly risking our economic future just to placate the separatists in her party?
The Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish it were that simple, and I think part of the reason why the proponent of the Forever Canada has had cold feet about whether he wants it to be put to a referendum is because when you put forward a yes or no question to do you want to remain in Canada, yes or no, what are the consequences of a no vote? I don't know that we know the answer to that, and I'm hoping that the committee will shed some light on it, but I suspect that that's part of the reason why he initially said yes to a referendum and has since changed his mind. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the committee will grapple with those issues.
Honourable Member.
It's clear what this government is doing is delaying in the hopes that their separatist friends get their signatures, and this thing goes away. This is shoddy legislation. It always has been, and now the government is seeing the consequences of their actions. But the Premier still won't denounce separatism. She still won't speak out in favour of Canada, but she welcomes separatists in her caucus and in her cabinet. Albertans are worried about their CPP. They're worried about the RCMP. They're worried about protecting the future of our country and our economy. Why won't the Premier just let the Assembly have the vote on the Forever Canada petition and put this to bed?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've made my position very clear that I support a sovereign Alberta within United Canada. That means Alberta stays a province in Canada, and we address the very real grievances that people have about the way we've been treated by the federal government, backed by their NDP allies in the federal government. And what we've seen is the member opposite. He had members from his party who were celebrating the vote this weekend of a new leader of the national NDP, Abby Lewis, who wants to keep infrastructure from being built, keep oil and gas in the ground. These are the reasons, Mr. Speaker, why Albertans feel disenfranchised, and he could do something about that.
Second set of questions belongs to the Leader of the Official Opposition.
I'm impressed it took her 3 questions to get to that answer. Because here's the thing, the Premier is obsessed with who people's bosses are, because she has so many bosses. President Trump, Kristi Noem, Jeffrey Rath, David Parker, the Heritage Foundation, Saudi princes, and of course, the boss of this entire government, Sam Marash. It must be hard having all those people in her ear all the time. Why doesn't this Premier think that Albertans are her boss?
Yeah.
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the member opposite doesn't care much about constitutions, but he should read his own constitution, because it does say that the NDP party's federal constitution means that the principles have to be aligned with the federal party. His own constitution says that in any matter not dealt with, the constitution of the New Democratic Party of Canada shall prevail. With the stakes so high, Mr. Speaker, he had 73,000 people vote in the Alberta leadership election. There were only 71,000 people who voted in the federal leadership election. Why didn't he rally his people? Why didn't he ask Albertans to make sure that we didn't get somebody anti-Alberta who was going to be his boss?
Right. Honourable member.
Well, I thank the Premier for two things. The first thing I thank her for was posting this weekend the actual Constitution. The first 3 lines, which she may not have read, said that provincial parties are fully autonomous.
That's right.
And I thank her for reminding everyone that far more people voted in our leadership and for me than ever voted for her.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, she can't have it both ways on this, Mr. Speaker, that number one, she tries to be Miss Canada, but number two, she panders to...
Order. Let's hear it.
Seconds, if that's all right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So is she Miss Canada, or is she pandering to the separatists?
Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's just put on the record. Each province of Canada shall have fully autonomous provincial party, provided its constitution and principles are not in conflict with the federal party. Now, we know what the federal party stands for, Mr. Speaker. They want government-run grocery stores. They want government-run energy. They want to keep oil and gas in the ground. They want to stop building pipelines. They want to take over the construction industry. I'm wondering what the plan is to start rationing all those things once the Communist Party takes over. And I'm wondering if the member opposite would explain to us just how far he differentiates from what his federal leader is proposing.
Honourable member.
Well, I'm glad she's asking me questions. It's good practice for the future for her. So, the Premier is so concerned about other people's bosses, but she's not concerned about being a good boss herself. Look at her caucus. I look at them every day, questioning their life choices. Her Minister for Service Alberta was found in contravention of Elections Alberta law. Her chief advisor on the Constitution is now a full-throated separatist in writing, and yet she's doing nothing about it. When will the Premier learn how to be a boss herself?
Hear, hear.
Premier.
Mr. Speaker, Elections Alberta offered some advice, and we will take that advice. And there was no penalty, but it is good guidance for us. I guess the member opposite still needs to answer. 62,746 NDP voters voted for him in his leadership. 39,734 voted to make Abby Lewis his boss. Why wasn't he able to rally any of his support to defeat Abby Lewis? Unless, of course, they wanted to have Abby Lewis in there, Mr. Speaker, because that is exactly what this party stands for. They're anti-fossil fuel development, and they're anti-Alberta.
The third set of questions belongs to the Leader of the official opposition.
It is fun that she continually reminds people that twice as many Albertans voted for me as voted for her. But that said, Mr. Speaker, this is not actually fun and games. This is about the future of the greatest nation in the history of this world. Last summer, the Premier admitted openly on her radio show that the only reason she's pandering to separatists because if she doesn't, she might lose the next election. So let me put it plainly to the Premier. What's more important to the Premier, power or the future of this country?
Premier.
Speaker, I am shocked that this member opposite and his caucus members who are attending the NDP convention this past weekend will not take responsibility for the division in this country. The reason this country is divided, the reason some Albertans have given up hope is because of the antics of this party with their federal counterparts victimizing Alberta for the last 10 years, trying to keep our oil and gas in the ground, preventing us from being able to develop our resources, and violating our personal rights and freedoms. That's the reason he should take responsibility.
Honourable member.
The Premier has been preparing this line of answers for months, and this is the best she can do, calling us divisive when she told a radio audience, the separatists are my people because they vote for me. Yeah. There is no one dividing Canada more than this Premier and this government every single day. Now, the Premier this weekend said that she welcomes the diversity of views in her caucus, but she kicked out the member for Lesser Slave Lake for advocating for his community. She kicked out the member for Airdrie Cochrane. Who's she going to kick out next? Certainly not the separatists.
Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If we're talking about members, the member from Edmonton Highlands Norwood, who was proudly at the NDP convention this weekend celebrating the election of Abby Lewis, also advocated to have Extinction Rebellion in classrooms. That's a group that wants to end fossil fuel development. We also have the member from Edmonton Rutherford, who opposed the Coastal GasLink. We have the member from Edmonton West Henday, who opposed TMX. We also have the member from Edmonton McClung, who thought Alberta should show leadership in transitioning away from fossil fuels. Here's the fact, Mr. Speaker. They're not upset about Abby Lewis winning. They have always been anti-pipeline development, and they will continue to be.
The honourable member.
Desperation and deflection to go around with deficits, debt, and dumb decisions on the part of this government. So let's be clear here. As I said, I look at my colleagues every day. Supposedly fiscal conservatives, yet running one of the largest deficits in Alberta history despite massive resource revenues. Supposedly libertarians, taking away rights from citizens every single day. Supposedly proud Canadians who've been forbidden by their Premier for saying that they're proud Canadians. Why does the Premier let the separatists run amok, but not let the Conservatives in her caucus be, you know, conservative?
Hear, hear.
Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When I said that we support a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada, that is how our country is supposed to work. We are a province within Canada with areas of exclusive jurisdiction. What it means is that every single time the federal government tries to violate our constitutional rights, we're going to step in. That is a very different pathway, Mr. Speaker, and that is one that we are demonstrating to Albertans every single day that Canada can work. It's part of the reason why I signed an historic MOU with the Prime Minister, and we are working through issue by issue to address the real grievances. I wish he would do the same with his federal counterpart.
The fourth set of questions goes to the honourable member for. Does he have one more left? Okay. No one's arguing. I'm going to take your word for it. My mistake.
Mr. Speaker.
No, you don't have
government
one more.
claims.
Sorry, the only ones I would take over everybody is the table, and they said you're done. You had your questions, yes. So the next set of questions does belong to the honourable member for order. Edmonton Whitewood.
None of my MLAs have indicated to me that they have signed. End quote. That was the Premier just 2 weeks ago when asked if any of her UCP MLAs have signed the separatist petition. But on Friday, the MLA for Red Deer South, the UCP's Parliamentary Secretary on Constitutional Affairs, sorry, it still makes me laugh to say that, defied his leader and came out as a separatist. Looks like even he wasn't buying the sovereign Alberta and United Canada nonsense. It's proof there are separatists in the UCP caucus. Will the Premier admit, by not removing that MLA from her caucus, the UCP is officially a separatist party?
The Honourable the Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the UCP is officially a pro-Canada party in our founding constitution. Mr. Speaker, as a front bench minister, I love my country, I love my home, I am Canadian, and we will continue to fight for a united Canada as Alberta that continues to remain sovereign and strong. Members opposite cannot say that they are proud to be Albertans the way we can say we're proud to be Canadians. I challenge members opposite to somehow defy their leader and defy Abby Lewis and defend Alberta and our energy industry the way I and my colleagues defend Canada.
Honourable member.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this Premier knows quite a bit about disagreeing with federal party positions. After all, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said he's a federalist and no one in his caucus supports separatism. But the Premier can't say the same about herself or her caucus. According to the MLA for Red Deer South, Canada never will be a free and prosperous country, and Canada's constitution will, quote, never change. Cue the unhinged and generous use of all caps there. It appears that MLA doesn't believe in Canada or the Constitution, so how is he still fit to be a member of the UCP caucus unless his government doesn't believe in it either?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's rich to have them questioning the patriotism when we just recently sang the national anthem in this chamber together. It's rich to have members opposite accuse us of no patriotism when during COVID they said that the Canadian flag was somehow a hate symbol. Mr. Speaker, this isn't fair weather patriotism. On this side of the House, we love our country, and we will not be a part of the destroying of our country the way the decades have passed with the Liberal NDP coalition have attacked Albertans and Canadians.
I heard the question just fine. I'd like to hear the answer to.
Where the Liberal NDP coalition have attacked Canadians from a Conservative or Alberta position, have said, you're not welcome in this country, not that brand of patriotism. Mr. Speaker, at some point, those Canadians took them at the word. Unfortunately, we are here to show that Canada can still work.
Honourable member. Point of order was noted at 2:06, and in case there's any doubt, your 35 seconds start now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Come to think of it, maybe the Premier isn't even a member of the federal Conservative Party anymore. After all, her sad attempts to cozy up to Donald Trump last year single-handedly tanked the Conservatives in the last federal election. Maybe the Liberals have made her an honorary lifetime member to thank her. If the Premier won't remove the MLA for Red Deer South from her caucus for declaring himself a separatist, what's keeping the rest of them quiet? How many more UCP MLAs will be honest with their constituents and admit that they would rather leave Canada than lead Canada?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government has been clear. We've answered over and over again that we are for a united Canada. We continue to support Canada and a strong Alberta within that Canada. I support my home, my province, and my country. I will continue to support my home, my province, and my country. Members opposite can fearmonger all they like. The truth is, Mr. Speaker, we are proud to be Canadian this side of the House. Can the members opposite say they are also proud to be Albertans in the same way? I think not, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for St. Albert.
Alberta's economy relies heavily on interprovincial trade and investor confidence, and still this Premier flirts with separatists. Many of the 261,000 francophones in Alberta recall how threats of Quebec separatism repelled investment and continues to harm the Quebec economy today. The ACFA, or the Association Canadienne Française d'Alberta, publicly aligned themselves with the Forever Canada campaign, also rejecting separatism. How will the UCP protect the constitutional language rights of francophones while they continue to keep the door to separatism wide open?
The Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, it's the position of this government that we support a strong and sovereign Alberta with the United Canada. I love my country, my home. J'aime bien mon pays ici au Canada. Je suis un fier Canadien. We are proud Canadians this side of the House. I hope members opposite can take yes for an answer, join together instead of spreading more fear about separatism, instead argue together for a strong Canada. But can members also say that they're for a strong Alberta? I don't think so. When you look at the history of members opposite and what they've said, how they've attacked our economy and our culture year over year with an alliance with the Trudeau Liberals, Mr. Speaker, the question's on them. Do they love our province the way we...
Honourable member for St. Albert.
Ça fait pas de sens, Monsieur le Président. Given French is the second most spoken language internationally and in Canada, is a major job-creating sector, opening gateways to national and international markets. With the Francophone share of Alberta's GDP at $23 billion, to the minister, is the UCP government concerned that the Premier's hand-picked parliamentary secretary for separation, the MLA for Red Deer South, saying Alberta does not need French to artificially sustain bilingualism and it should be a personal choice, end quote.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'll say it again. I'm a proud Canadian. I love my home, I love my country, and I will continue on behalf of the government to defend this country and this province within our Confederation. Members opposite need to take yes for an answer that we love our country and our home. Do they love their home in the province of Alberta? Are they ashamed as embarrassing cousins for the rest of Confederation because we continue to develop responsibly oil and gas and the energy industry within this province? Mr. Speaker, I expect not, and hence why they have not publicly said that they didn't vote for Avi Lewis. Members opposite over and over again continue to advocate for the end of oil sands. We on the other side defend it.
Order. Minister, you got to stop when the time's up. Honourable member.
Il n'y a pas de réponse encore, Monsieur le Président. Given we're already witnessing the economic harm and palpable division this government's enabling of separation referendum is having in Alberta, and given the member for Red Deer North sends harmful messages about Alberta's Francophone community, tens of thousands of people whose language rights are protected and recognized across our country, will their Premier toss this reckless MLA from her caucus, or does she too think that Franco-Albertans should have their rights trampled on? Le séparatisme isole l'Alberta, l'unité lui ouvre les portes. Merci.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, and again, for clarity, and the member opposite, this isn't the gotcha you thought. For clarity in both languages, we are proud Canadians. Nous sommes des fiers Canadiens de cette côté d'une maison. Nous sommes fiers de notre deux langues officielles. We will continue to support them in every single aspect we can. That's why we have had an incredible politique francophone ici, where we continue to advance francophone policy in this government ever since we got in 2019.
The next set of questions belongs to the member for Airdrie East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We on this side of the House believe that biological men do not belong in women's sports, period. I know this might bring a cramp to the members of the opposition, but we believe that women and girls deserve a level playing field, period. That's why Alberta's government, under the leadership of our Premier, stood up for Canada's female athletes like powerlifter April Hutchinson. It was great to see the International Olympic Committee follow Alberta's lead and ensure that only biological females can compete in women's sports competitions, period. Trans rights do not get to trump women's...
Order. 35 seconds are up. The Honourable Minister of Tourism and Sport.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the member for a great question. The IOC new policy reinforces and protects the integrity of female athletic competitions, ensuring that women and girls can compete for gold on a level playing field, Mr. Speaker. This policy also vindicates female athletes like April Hutchinson, who were wrongfully punished for speaking out against unfair and unsafe athletic competitions, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, given that the Alberta NDP's leader has made it clear that he believes that biological men should be able to compete in women's sports, and given that his new boss, eco-socialist Avi Lewis, has made it clear that he is proud of the Alberta NDP for advocating for biological men to compete in women's sports categories, further given that the NDP is ignoring internationally recognized scientific evidence, can the minister please explain how the NDP's policies are harmful to Canada's female athletes?
Here, here. Honourable member, the questions are required to be on government policy, not on the opposition policy, but if the minister wants to answer, he can.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The president of the IOC said, quote, "It is absolutely clear that it would not be fair for biological males to compete in the female category. In addition, in some sport, it would simply not be safe." Mr. Speaker, by ignoring scientific evidence, and the NDP wants to put our amazing female athletes at risk of harm. Mr. Speaker, shame on them.
Airdrie East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that women and girls often face barriers to sport, and given that the NDP advocates for biological men to compete in women's sports, actively silencing and discouraging women and girls from participating in sports, not to mention running roughshod over hard-earned human rights, and further given that the IOC and Canada's government believes, and Alberta's government believe in protecting the integrity of female athletic competitions, period. Can the minister please share how Alberta's government is encouraging and expanding opportunities for women and girls to train and compete?
The minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Through our Every Kid Can Play program, Podium Alberta, and sport participation support, our government has invested over $1 million in programs such as flag women's football, more girls on bikes, gloves, not guns, and over 50 female athletes through Podium Alberta. We will continue to encourage participation and removal of all barriers to sport for women and girls, Mr. Speaker.
The next set of questions belongs to the honourable member for Calgary-Beddington.
The UCP spends money like fiscal conservatism is going out of style. And what exactly are Albertans getting from this big spending government? Do we have the best funded schools in the country? No, because even with their huge property tax increases, this government still can't even manage to meet the national average for per-student funding. To the Minister of Education, does this UCP government ever plan to prioritize investment in our schools, or is the plan to forever lag behind the rest of the country?
The Honourable Minister of Education and Children's Services.
Mr. Speaker, Budget 26 puts significant focus on our education system. In fact, this year alone, we'll be investing $722 million. That's an increase from last year. That's a 7% increase. That puts our overall funding per student above British Columbia and helps ensure that we're able to distribute more complexity teams to classrooms that are needed the most. We're moving forward with an $8.6 billion initiative to build and modernize over 130 schools across the province, and we'll continue to work on these important priorities, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member.
Given that this government prioritized inking juicy contracts with their pal Sam Raish to the tune of tens of millions of dollars for overpriced, unusable children's pain medication just to make it look like they were listening to parents, and given that at the same time they refused real action to address classroom complexity, to the minister, exactly how many complexity teams could be funded with the $49 million spent on this bad contract for Sam Raish's Turkish Tylenol?
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud of the fact that we've dispatched these complexity teams to help address some of the growing concerns that we've heard in our classrooms. We've heard concerns from parents and teachers alike that our classrooms are more dynamic today than ever before, and that's indeed the reality, and that's precisely why we've invested over $143 million to help create 476 complexity teams that are being dispatched to our highest need classrooms to help ensure that students have the targeted and individualized supports that they need so that they are able to succeed.
Honourable member.
Given that this government has only scrounged up the funding for 476 complexity teams when nearly 68,000 Alberta classrooms have complexity ratings of medium or higher, given that there wasn't a single penny to be found to help teachers and administrators who are dealing with enormous complexity for students in grades 7 to 12, to the minister, is the plan to keep shortchanging Alberta students in favour of lining the pockets of this government's buddies?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, of course, the member opposite can continue to provide rhetoric. I'm happy to provide answers and solutions. As I've mentioned, 476 complexity teams are being dispatched to our most needed classrooms. We're investing $8.6 billion to build and modernize over 130 classrooms. We're investing over 7% in Budget 26 in comparison to last year. That's one of the largest annual increases ever provided to our education system. So while the NDP continues with talking points and rhetoric, we're going to deliver solutions that Albertans expect, Mr. Speaker.
Next question belongs to the honourable member for Edmonton Highlands, Norwood.
Trans Day of Visibility is a moment where trans folks, those who can, get to show pride in simply existing. They've always existed, just like our two-spirit, non-binary and gender-diverse friends and family. But the UCP have done all they can to fan the flames of discrimination against the community. So just a simple question to the Premier. Does she believe that trans youth exist?
The honourable member for arts, culture, and the status of women.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our government supports the 2S LGBTQI+ community. Since 2021, we've invested over $27 million in programs and services that support 2S LGBTQI+ Albertans, including nearly $2 million in grants for community organizations and projects. Last year, our government was the single largest funder of the Edmonton Pride Festival, investing $75,000 to support their event.
Honourable member.
Given that attacking the queer and trans community is a strange way to show your support, and given that parents of trans youths are constituents, they've joined their Legislative Assembly today with a message to this Premier. These family members want the Premier to know that trans children do exist, do have rights, and deserve nothing less than full support from their government, just like any other children. So will the Premier, will she meet with these parents and these advocates today and explain to their faces why she took away their rights?
The Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Further supports from our government include launching various initiatives dedicated to championing the community, including launching the 2S LGBTQIA+ online resource hub to provide information on government services and supports available to 2S LGBTQIA+ Albertans, and celebrating 2S LGBTQIA+ Albertans champions by advocating for inclusion through our Stars of Alberta Volunteer Awards program.
The honourable member.
Given that faith communities, parents, youth and allies all support raising up the visibility of trans folks in our province, and given that this government's policy decisions have attacked the very rights of trans children to safely be themselves, yet this government would rather weaponize the Constitution than use it to protect the rights of all Albertans. Once more, to that Premier, will she clear a few moments from her afternoon today and meet with these parents and these incredible advocates so that they can hear directly from those folks?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Further supports for the community include $50,000 for Firefly Institute's 2S LGBTQ+ Community Development Project and nearly $53,000 to the Centre for Sexuality Society. Also, in our 10-year strategy to end gender-based violence, we engage with numerous 2S LGBTQIA+ representatives and leaders from across Alberta to inform our strategy and ensure that actions were meaningful and reflected those communities. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Lacombe-Hanoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Across our province, Albertans need prosthetics due to accidents, diseases, or congenital birth impairments. However, rising costs can sometimes leave Albertans with financial burdens. Our system needs to keep up with the technological advances in prosthetics to limit the gap between what amputees need and what the government can afford. To the Minister of Primary and Preventative Health Services, can you explain to the Assembly how Alberta's current prosthetic funding system meets the needs of amputees, particularly those requiring advanced devices like microprocessor knees?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the member for the excellent question. Alberta's prosthetic funding system helps amputees get the devices they need by covering most medically necessary prosthetics through the Alberta AIDS to Daily Living program, Mr. Speaker. Certified prostheticists work with Albertans in need for a device to ensure that the right prosthetic is chosen and that funding is available throughout the person's whole lifetime, Mr. Speaker, because that's the right thing to do. This approach provides stability, equity and access to modern prosthetic technology for people right across our province.
Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the Minister for that answer. Given that prosthetic programs in Alberta can have different criteria for eligibility, especially for seniors and low-income Albertans, and further given that complex eligibility requirements means sometimes Albertans have to choose no service at all, which puts them at further risk for health complications down the road. To the same Minister, how is the government making it easier for Albertans to access prosthetics and other assistive devices?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, through the Alberta Aids to Daily Living program, seniors and many low-income Albertans do not have to pay cost shares, and others have their costs capped so that expenses are manageable. Certified professionals can guide clients through assessments and eligibility, helping them understand what benefits they actually qualify for. And with long-standing partnerships across the province, we're ensuring Albertans can get the right supports for prosthetics without navigating the system on their own. Mr. Speaker, it's the right thing to do. Our people deserve that access.
Again, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the Minister for that answer. Given that where you live, whether urban or rural, can have a direct impact on how easily or quickly you can access prosthetic services, and further given that Albertans want to be ensured timely access to the Alberta Aids to Daily Living program when they need it the most, to the same Minister, how does the government's AADL program provide timely support and care to Albertans in need of a prosthetic, no matter where they live?
Minister.
Thank you. Alberta's Aids to Daily Living supports timely prosthetic care by partnering with about 19 certified prosthetic vendors across the province, helping Albertans with assessments and fittings, whether they live in a large city or in a small rural community, Mr. Speaker. Because AADL is a long-standing legislated program, Albertans can rely on consistent, coordinated support throughout their whole recovery. This ensures that they get the mobility aids and support they need quickly, reducing the risk for further health complications. Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary-Klein.
The Premier stood in this House and told Albertans that every single one of her MLAs supported Canada and that none of her caucus had signed the separatist referendum petition. But her Parliamentary Secretary for Constitutional Affairs says a separatism referendum is good. He disparages Canada and tells voters to help him tear apart our country. And the Premier said that's just a diversity of views. Why would the Premier's Parliamentary Secretary want Alberta to separate from Canada?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the government is abundantly clear. We're for a united Canada and a strong and sovereign Alberta within that. Mr. Speaker, I love my home, I love my country, and I'm a proud Canadian. I will continue to fight for my country over and over again. We've seen a decade of Liberal NDP alliance telling Albertans and Conservatives across the country your brand of patriotism isn't welcome here. And unfortunately, some folks have taken them at their word. We're here today to say that Canada can still work and there's a strong place for Alberta in this confederation and that we are proud Canadians to boot. Hear, hear.
Honourable member.
Given that the Parliamentary Secretary took an oath when he became an MLA, but given that he's written Canada is in decline, and offensively wrote, we are, quote, a first world country moving towards a third world country, end quote, and given that this column is titled, a referendum on independence is good for Alberta, why hasn't the Premier denounced her Parliamentary Secretary's blatant separatist rhetoric? Is it because she welcomes separatism?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government is not a separatist government. This is not a separatist party. We are a proud Canadian party in our founding constitution. We believe in one Canada united, and Alberta should be strong within that. Mr. Speaker, members opposite are trying to hide from the fact that they've been embarrassed by Alberta and Albertans for a decade. Mr. Speaker, they have not denounced Avi Lewis and the policies that they have, the federal Ottawa policy for the mothership, telling Albertans and the NDP here that they should be embarrassed about who we are and the kind of work that we do, the hard work that blue-collar Albertans have done for generations. Members opposite used to defend blue-collar. Now they're all woke and entitled.
Honourable member.
Given that that's quite a tune change, and given that the Premier has said none of her caucus members signed the referendum petition to separate, but given that her Parliamentary Secretary calls for everyone in Alberta to sign it, and given that the same member and every UCP member refused to pledge their support for Canada, which was actually very easy for my colleagues and myself, why has the Premier not kicked her Parliamentary Secretary out of the caucus?
Mr. Speaker, every Monday we rise together towards the flag and sing the national anthem as a legislature, and we sing God Save the King at the end of the week. We are proud Canadians. We're proud of our institutions, and we're proud to be Albertans within a united Canada. We will continue to make that fight. Can members opposite say the same when they've been embarrassed, like the member from Edmonton-McClung who said that we should transition away from fossil fuels? Are they proud Albertans when they say, like the member from West Henday, that it should be opposed to TMX? Will they denounce Avi Lewis and the crazy policies that are destroying this country's economic unity? Will they denounce the anti-Canadian rhetoric coming out of Ottawa every single week?
When the time's up, we need to stop. The honourable member for Cypress Medicine Hat.
Mr. Speaker, it's been proven that students who train in rural and mid-sized Alberta will choose to set their roots in those communities. Rural institutions play a critical role in training professionals where we need them most. They become our doctors, nurses, lawyers, and trades workers. Can the Minister of Advanced Education please explain how this government is investing in rural post-secondary education and how it will impact our rural and mid-sized communities?
Good question.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for the question. Our government knows that when students train in rural and mid-sized communities, they have a higher probability that they will stay in those communities. They become the doctors, nurses, and tradespeople our towns depend on. That's why we're investing directly in rural colleges across Alberta, including the Medicine Hat College Centre for Community Wellness. More seats, more programs, and better facilities so students don't have to leave home to get a great education. We're building local talent for local communities, and that's how we keep rural Alberta strong.
Honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the Minister. Given that the Medicine Hat College's Centre for Community Wellness will expand training of practical nurses, healthcare aides, social workers, and addictions counselling, and given that it will bring students' wellness services together under one roof as opposed to isolated rooms and off-site locations, can the same minister please explain how this investment will create stronger healthcare training and wellness services for students of Medicine Hat College to service rural Alberta?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Centre for Community Wellness at Medicine Hat College is going to be a game changer, and Budget 2026 backs that up with $2 million in planning funding, the college's #1 capital priority. Right now, student counselling services are sitting in temporary space. This centre fixes that, putting wellness supports, modern classrooms, simulation labs, and hands-on training all under one roof. It will also include a medical clinic and daycare on site, giving students in nursing, social work, and addictions counselling real practical experience right on campus.
Hear, hear.
Honourable member.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker, and to the Minister. Given that the Medicine Hat College plays a key role in rural post-secondary education, serving students from across southeastern Alberta and nearby communities and as far away as Saskatchewan, who train and work close to home. And given that philanthropists have come together to make the Centre for Community Wellness a reality, can the same minister please explain how this government will partner with community leaders to ensure that the Centre for Community Wellness delivers meaningful benefits to as many students as possible?
The Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Medicine Hat College serves students from across southeastern Alberta who want to train and work close to home. This centre brings key programs like pharmacy technician, currently in leased space off campus, social work and addiction counselling into one modern facility. It will also have student gathering spaces and wellness services that build a real sense of community on campus. Our government is proud to partner with Medicine Hat College and community leaders who help make this happen. Together, we're making sure this centre delivers for students and for rural Alberta.
Next question belongs to the honourable member for Calgary Northeast.
The UCP MLA for Red Deer South is publicly advocating for Alberta's separatism while continuing to draw a taxpayer-funded parliamentary salary. This Premier actually increased his salary to let him spew the separatist rhetoric. Will the Premier explain why Albertans should be paying a member who is actively threatening national unity? Will she take decisive action to remove this member from her caucus today?
The Honourable Deputy Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure the member is doing what he thinks he's doing. If somebody's not a member of caucus, they still get a salary as an elected member of this chamber. But I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, as the Deputy Government House Leader, I'm incredibly proud to be a Canadian. And I will continue to fight for Alberta and a united Canada. I will continue to defend Alberta, and I will continue to defend our country that we have inherited, the wonderful institutions that members opposite have spent a decade attacking and tearing down over and over again, Mr. Speaker. We're proud Canadians this side of the House. Can members opposite say they're proud Albertans?
Order. Honourable member.
Given that the MLA for Red Deer South is promoting a referendum on separatism, a move that would jeopardize jobs, pensions, and economic stability, and given that the member had a big salary top-up gifted to him by this Premier, does the Premier believe it is appropriate for a member of her government paid for by Albertans to advance such divisive and destabilizing ideas? And before this minister goes on with his rhetoric of UCP Constitution or singing of Canadian national anthem, will this Premier show leadership for once and remove the MLA for Red Deer South from her caucus?
The Honourable Deputy Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, that is exactly the problem. Members opposite think our national anthem is just rhetoric, that it's empty, and when it's useful to condemn it during, say, COVID protests, then all of a sudden it's shameful to be Canadian, to use the Canadian national flag as an emblem. But when it's convenient as a political attack and wedge to drive separatism further into public discourse, then they push farther into that door and shove it all the way through. Mr. Speaker, we're not fair-weather patriots on this side of the House. We believe deeply in our national anthem, international institutions, and the icons that members opposite have spent a decade attacking and tearing down. That will not be found on this side of the House. We are proud Canadians.
The Honourable Member.
Given that Albertans expect their elected representatives to strengthen our province and not weaken it, given that everyone on this side of the House opposes separatism and believe Alberta is at its best working towards solutions for all Canadians, why is the Premier allowing a taxpayer-funded MLA to praise separatism while families face rising costs and uncertainty? Will she finally draw a clear line by rejecting separatism and removing that member from her caucus?
Honourable Deputy Government House Leader.
This government has been clear over and over again. We believe in Canada, a united Canada. I'm a proud Canadian. I love my home and I love my province. So does this government. Mr. Speaker, it's members opposite that continue to try and drive separatism into this House. We continue to advocate for Canada, and members opposite continue to try and drive Canada apart, as they have for a decade, with an attack on true patriotism, one where we believe in our institutions, where we've continued to defend our country, and they are fair-weather patriots that continue to only at moments of political convenience pretend to wrap themselves in the flag, when in reality it's disingenuous.
The next question belongs to the Honourable Member for Lethbridge West.
That was a good one. Mr. Speaker, according to its business plan, municipal affairs plays a vital role in supporting municipalities to deliver well-managed, fiscally responsible and accountable local government. And yet, rural municipalities of Alberta have identified well over $250 million of municipal property taxes that have gone unpaid by oil and gas companies. Will the minister tell Albertans when will the property tax accountability strategy recommendations actually enable municipalities to receive back taxes? You know, like real dollars.
The Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Speaker, it's a terrific question to have, because we just made an announcement with RMA and the President where we together, working on the PTAS group, have come to a conclusion where we're going to give real teeth to the AER and give it a mandate so it can continue to enforce. Starting immediately, we're working on a number of the different recommendations, and it can immediately enforce those companies that are not paying. Every single citizen, corporate or individual, has an obligation to pay its taxes. That's how the system works. That's why we're partnering with RMA and the AER and Energy to make sure this goes forward.
Honourable Member.
Given that this government's excessive increases to the education property tax effectively limits the ability of municipalities to increase property taxes as necessary because property owners mainly look at the bottom line of their tax invoice and will blame the municipality for large increases in the education tax. And given that municipal affairs' goal is to explore ways to limit excessive property tax increases, when it comes to property tax increases, does the minister hold municipalities to a different standard than their own provincial government?
We don't need the music. Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy to take the question. I just worked with RMA and AB Munis over the last 2 weeks to come to an understanding in terms of the path forward. We agree that we need to make sure we continue to fund over $10 billion of operating for education across this province, and we're investing over $8.6 billion in the new School Accelerator program. We're continuing to fund those so that every single community across this province has schools. There are 161 schools that are currently being built by the province and are underway in the capital plan, and we're very proud to be supporting the world's best education system, and will continue to do so with our municipalities.
Honourable member.
Given that in just 1 year, municipalities lost out on an estimated $84 million in potential revenue from cancelled renewable energy projects, and given that uncollected linear property tax from the oil and gas sector, which includes assessments on abandoned oil, has created a double whammy to municipalities: lost revenue from renewable projects, uncollected taxes from oil and gas. When is this government going to support the development of renewable energy to enable a substantial and sustainable revenue stream for rural municipalities?
The Honourable Minister of Utilities and Affordability.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is proud to support energy generation of every type. That is why we are fixing the messes left behind by the NDP, where they got us off coal that cost Albertans $100 million.
Lethbridge West, it's your question. You might want to hear the answer. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The NDP policies cost Albertans $100 million a year because of their mismanagement. We're setting the market straight. We're putting Albertans first to make sure that they have jobs, to make sure that they have investment, to make sure that we're dealing with the affordability issues they face every day because we care about Albertans. Hear, hear.
Next question belongs to the Honourable Member for Grand Prairie Wapiti.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. In today's internet-driven world, reliable high-speed internet access is no longer a luxury, but an essential service. For too long, Alberta's urban centres have been benefited from strong connectivity, while many rural communities, like those in the constituency of Grand Prairie Wapiti, have been left behind. To the Minister of Technology and Innovation, can you please explain how our government will ensure reliable, affordable, and high-speed internet access for all Albertans?
The Honourable Minister of Technology and Innovation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're proud of the work that we've done to launch the Alberta Broadband Strategy and to secure a partnership with the federal government for over $700 million. This is a credible plan to ensure that every Albertan, regardless of where they live, have access to reliable high-speed internet. And I'm pleased to report that 95% of Albertans now have access to this internet or live in a region that has a connectivity project funded by our plan underway. We're on track for our goal of universal connectivity, Mr. Speaker. That means better internet for the members' constituents in Grand Prairie Wapiti and all across Alberta. Our message to rural Albertans, Mr. Speaker, is we've got your back.
Honourable Member.
Mr. Speaker, given that Alberta's government is actively investing into rural broadband projects and our major investments in Northern Alberta, and further given that to achieve maximum benefit for residents, the Government of Alberta is committed to working with the federal and private partners. To the Minister of Technology and Innovation, how does this collaborative approach deliver the best value for taxpayers while ensuring more Albertans in the north get reliable, affordable, high-speed internet?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're proud to be working with the federal government to partner on this 50-50 cost-share deal to ensure that Albertans in rural, remote and Indigenous communities all across this province can access reliable high-speed internet. By partnering together, we can avoid duplication of critical infrastructure and coordinate to optimize our collective investments to maximize results for rural Albertans. I don't know why the NDP didn't try this when they were in government, but I can tell you that rural Albertans were crying out for help and connectivity back then. Unfortunately, the NDP didn't spend a dime, Mr. Speaker. Shame. Thankfully, we are making real investments to benefit rural Albertans.
Hear, hear. Grand Prairie Wapiti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister for his response. Given that Northern Alberta's environment causes significant barriers to reliable high-speed internet because of factors like distance, rugged terrain, and severe weather, and further given that the people in these ridings, like Grand Prairie Wapiti, depend on consistent connectivity to live, work, and learn, to the same minister, what technologies are being pursued to overcome these challenges and finally provide Northern Alberta with reliable internet?
The Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the member. What a great question. Northern Alberta does indeed have challenging terrain, and that's why we've always said that our strategy is open to a combination of connectivity options. In some cases, fibre to the home will make great sense, and in other cases, fixed wireless will be a better option. And in the truly remote cases, low Earth orbit satellite technologies will be the best option. Our strategy supports all of the above. It supports the best technology option for the region. Most importantly, Mr. Speaker, I'm confident that we're on track to achieve universal connectivity by the end of 2027. We're laser focused on closing the digital divide.
Honourable members, in 30 seconds, we will continue with the daily routine.
Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Presenting petitions, notices of motions.
The Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to give oral notice of Bill 25, an act to remove politics and ideology from classrooms and amend the Education Act 2026, sponsored by the Honourable Minister of Education and Childcare.
Introduction of bills.
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Irrigation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce the Animal Protection Amendment Act 2026. If passed, Bill 22 will expand protections for animals, modernize inspection authorities, expand compliance and enforcement tools, and increase penalties for offenders. It is my hope that if Bill 22 passes, that all animals will be safer for years to come. With that, Mr. Speaker, I now move first reading of Bill 22.
Honourable members, the Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Irrigation has moved first reading of Bill 22, Animal Protection Amendment Act 2026. Those in favour of the motion for first reading, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed to first reading, please say no. The ayes have it. That motion is carried.
Bill 22, Animal Protection Amendment Act 2026 is now read a first time.
The Honourable, the Minister of Justice.
Speaker, I'm pleased to rise and move first reading for Bill 23, the Justice Statutes Amendment Act 2026. Mr. Speaker, if passed, this bill would prohibit the creation and distribution of deepfakes intended to mislead voters here in this province. With amendments to the Citizen Initiative Act and the Recall Act, we're going to continue to define our democratic process legislation to improve clarity, consistency, and above all else, democratic accountability. Bill 23 would also update the Public Sector Compensation Transparency Act to maintain transparency, reduce red tape, and ensure that the legislation continues to reflect its original purpose, which is to ensure that Albertans know how their tax dollars are being spent. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I move first reading of Bill 23.
Honourable members, the Honourable Minister of Justice has moved first reading of Bill 23, Justice Statutes Amendment Act 2026. Those in favour of the motion for first reading, please now say aye. Aye. Those opposed to first reading, please say no. The ayes have it. That motion is carried.
Bill 23, Justice Statutes Amendment Act 2026 is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-McClung.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to table the requisite 5 copies of the cover letter of Highway 3 Resident and Landowner Coalition petition package outlining urgent concerns regarding the proposed interim access management plan for the Highway 3 twinning project signed by 104 upset rural Albertans.
Honourable Member, that particular tabling belongs in tablings to the clerk, but we're going to accept it just the same. Not tablings to the clerk, no.
tablings to the clerk, I wish to advise the Assembly that the following document was deposited with the Office of the Clerk on behalf of Honourable Minister Lagrange, Minister of Primary and Preventative Health Services, Alberta Health Services 2024-25 Annual Report.
And now I need to apologize to the member from Edmonton-McClung. You did that at the right time. That was my mistake, sir. You're laughing. Well, you should laugh. It's funny. Is there any other tablings? Since I seem to have skipped over that lightly. Honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to table the LEAP Manifesto leaflet, an overview of the LEAP Manifesto project supported by the NDP members, with their newly elected leader, Avi Lewis, being an initiatory signature calling to keep our oil in the ground and other radical communist.
Yep. Okay. Any other tablings? Seeing none. Now we are at the point of the part of the day that we like to call points of order. At about 2:06 p.m. Seems somebody from the government, Deputy House Leader.
Well, I am just going to make your day, Mr. Speaker, and withdraw the only point of order we have.
Then isn't this a happy occasion? All witness one day without accidents. And now we are at orders of the day.
Public bills and orders other than government bills and orders. For second reading, Bill 207, Primary Provincial Industries Recognition Statutes Amendment Act 2026. Mr. Dick.
The honourable member for Grande Prairie.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to move second reading of Bill 207, Primary Provincial Industries Recognition Statutes Amendment Act 2026. And today, Mr. Speaker, I want to speak about the industries that don't just support Alberta's economy. They are Alberta's economy, Mr. Speaker. This bill reflects something very powerful but simple. The Alberta strength comes from the people who build, who grow, who harvest and power this province every single day. And our youth, our kids, deserve to understand the industries that are growing and making Alberta unique and competitive across the world. And understanding the financial impact and the impact that these industries have across the province is incredibly key for every single student in Alberta to understand. And today I would just want to spend a few minutes outlining all these industries here too as well, because these, as I said, these are just another industry. These are our economy, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to speak about the energy industry. Our energy industry contributes roughly 21% of Alberta's GDP, making it the single largest driver of economic industry and activity in our province. And in 2024 alone, the value of Alberta's energy production reached $139 billion, the second highest in record, Mr. Speaker. And this isn't by accident. These are the results of hardworking Albertans, strong investment, and a government that understands where prosperity comes from. And, Mr. Speaker, the industry directly employs 135,000 people and supports another 400,000 jobs. These are mortgages, these are jobs, these are families, these are communities being built upon this. These are people in my community, they're of Grande Prairie, right across northern Alberta, southern Alberta, from all the way from the bottom of Alberta to the north and east and west. It is every single area of our province. And, Mr. Speaker, it's responsible for us to be able to speak about the industries that are building up Albertans, and that so our kids can understand that they have a future and that they understand that we are building up and expanding this industry here. And while we see other areas and other jurisdictions creating uncertainty, we are creating this opportunity for young people and youth to be able to recognize and jump in. And, Mr. Speaker, Bill 207 recognizes that opportunity and this reality, and it reinforces the idea and the importance of educating the next generation to understand our energy industry, the implication of it financially, both for themselves and for a pathway into work as well. Mr. Speaker, our energy industry is being built by men and women across this province, and we need to remember that, and I'm proud to stand beside them on this. Now, another area on this bill is agriculture. I do want to speak about this because this is a significant industry. Alberta is home to there's tens of thousands of family farms. Roughly 97% of farms across Canada are family farms, Mr. Speaker. And this is what's interesting is that Alberta has I believe just over 30% of Canada's farmland. This is a significant industry, but not only that, we are one of we do we do $17 billion in agri-foods, and we send our products to over 145 different countries. Mr. Speaker, let's just let that sink in a moment. Alberta farmers are feeding the world. This is an important aspect because there are actually only a small amount of countries that are producing more than what they consume. And Alberta is part of that conversation here in Canada. And we are the largest producer of beef and barley in Canada. We are the second largest for wheat and canola. These aren't just small accomplishments. These are cornerstones of feeding the world as well. These are global leadership positions earned through the innovation of farmers, hard work, and a commitment to excellence from right here in Alberta. And Bill 207 is about ensuring that youth and young people understand that too as well. Agriculture is a cornerstone, and we have significant agriculture here across the province. I would also like to talk about forestry here too as well. Alberta is home to nearly 29 million hectares of forest. When we talk about forest, this is it's predominantly on Crown land. Crown land makes up roughly 60% of our province. This isn't quite that 60%. It is not a small niche market. It is a significant land that we do. And Mr. Speaker, Albertans see opportunity when they see forestry. We see jobs, we see families building communities, as I've said before, and their lives wrap around this excellent industry. Forestry employs more than 40,000 Albertans directly and indirectly, and in my area, there are thousands of jobs being directly employed. And this is something where culture is built upon, but also this is an area as we responsibly develop our forests, it is also an opportunity for young people to understand that this is a renewable industry, and also it's an area where we can continue to have, because this government has done responsible forest management, be able to also keep down and utilize our forests while also helping prevent forest fires. And Mr. Speaker, Bill 207 builds upon this idea of both jobs and also a significant land base. These, as I mentioned, most of our forests are on Crown land, and this means that this belongs to the people of Alberta. And people in Alberta deserve to understand where their money is coming from and what opportunities this lie. So let's be clear, this is about supporting the forest industry. It is also supporting jobs and allowing kids an opportunity to understand. That forestry is also, we have one of the, depending on which list you use, forestry land base is the 20th to 25th, somewhere in there, largest forest across the world. And that's just in Alberta, Mr. Speaker. So we have an opportunity. We do this responsibly. We have a forest industry that's larger than many European countries combined. I also want to just quickly touch on construction. I've ran a few construction companies, owned a couple construction companies too as well. I greatly enjoy this industry. I think it's really important. But because when you look at this, when you see construction growing, and you don't just look at the data points, but you look at what people are saying and what is being built. And on this side of the aisle, we see the importance of that. And we've seen this specifically in housing and also our investments across the province as well. But the construction sector employs just over 246,000 Albertans. That's roughly 1 in 10 workers in our province are in the construction industry. And this doesn't happen by accident. This happens because of policy, and it happens because of a growing industry and because of investment and because people want to move here. And we can see this in housing, Mr. Speaker. In 2024, Alberta builders built just over 26,000 homes. And that's a pretty significant increase of 32% from the year before. And then in 2025, we're looking at approximately 53,000 homes. These are significant numbers, significant growth across our province. For our young people and youth and kids to be able to understand there's an opportunity here to see growth, be able to build a business, be able to build a life in the construction. It's not just a statistic, but it's a good thing, and for them to be able to understand that this contributes to our GDP, it also contributes to their livelihoods, and there's job opportunities there too as well. And this is also why Bill 207 matters. It's because of these jobs, because of these opportunities and homes being built, not just homes, but also various other industrial and also commercial applications too. Now, just to close out here, when we look at these all together, Mr. Speaker, these work really well together. These sectors aren't separate. These are connected. They support one another. They create jobs. They drive investment and build communities across our province. And not just in regions like Grand Prairie, but where we're seeing them work together, but across our province, we see this every single day. And this is what Bill 207 is about supporting these industries, encouraging young people to learn about these industries, see the financial impact both upon the province and upon their own lives, and see that there's a pathway to work in these two as well. And it's about recognizing these industries and the significant opportunities they give to youth and to people throughout their careers. Mr. Speaker, I do believe that we should be proud of these. This is about building pride in what Alberta has and what Alberta can continue to become in the future. Because when you invest in an economy, you also invest in people. This is about building into our young people and seeing that investment. This is a great story. This is a great story for Albertans. Alberta has a strong story to tell. I'm happy to be part of it, and I would encourage every single member here in this chamber to support Bill 207. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. I will recognize the member for Calgary-Beddington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today just to offer a few comments on Bill 207, Primary Provincial Industries Recognition Statutes Amendment Act. That's quite the mouthful, Mr. Speaker. I do think this is a really well-intentioned piece of legislation that has been put forward by the member opposite. I do have a level of discomfort, of course, when politicians look to insert themselves into the creation of curriculum. Certainly, I know that from members opposite, maybe not this one in particular, but from other members across the aisle in the chamber, have offered a lot of criticisms in the past when they view that politicians are trying to insert themselves into that curriculum development role. A role I think that we would all agree is probably best left to the experts, to teachers, to curriculum development experts who have the greater understanding, knowledge and skill base to know what it is that is going to be the most relevant curriculum pieces for our children. But this is the bill that we have before us, and so I'm happy to, of course, talk a little bit more about the areas in which the member opposite suggests we need to kind of shore up or bulk up Alberta's existing curriculum. Always happy to talk about oil and gas, of course. You know, it's easy to be happy to talk about oil and gas when you're a member of the only provincial party that's managed to actually get a pipeline built to Tidewater. It's, you know, huge success, enormous success of the Rachel Notley government. Certainly something no Conservative government has ever been able to manage. And of course, that pipeline TMX created thousands of jobs. So over 14,000 construction jobs, over 13,000 pipeline operations jobs, and over 400,000 was the estimate, Mr. Speaker, of course, for jobs created in the broader industry, ancillary supportive connecting services to the pipeline that the NDP got built. And that pipeline has added $5.4 billion of revenue, at still not making quite enough money to satisfy the spending appetites of the current government. They could probably cut down a little bit on some of the pet projects, would maybe help if we just focus that revenue that the Notley government is gifting to us now. If we could get that focused into healthcare and education, I think would be a lot better for Albertans, Mr. Speaker. So today, when we're looking at energy projects today, you know, of course, we, Alberta NDP, are, you know, support a TMX optimization, a new pipeline. And let's talk about some energy sectors that I didn't see reflected in this bill, because, of course, it's not just oil and gas. When I talk to Albertans, particularly folks in my riding, we talk a lot about how Alberta has always been is currently and will in the future be an energy superpower in this country. That is the great strength of Alberta. And we know that that doesn't come from just one sector, that there are multiple ways to generate energy in Alberta. So, I mean, I was a little bit disappointed, I guess, to see in here that we weren't going to talk about the other industries that are doing some great work to contribute to the energy mix in Alberta. But that's okay. Single track, I get it. Maybe, stay focused. When it comes to talking about curriculum, Mr. Speaker, I think that the piece that's missing for me here too is, again, we talk a lot about priorities, about the misaligned priorities of this government, the mismanagement of this government on the issues that are priorities to Albertan. And I love that we're here and we're having this opportunity to talk about education. Education is something that matters a lot to me. It matters a lot to the residents of Calgary-Beddington and to so many Albertans, Mr. Speaker. And we have a lot of issues in our classrooms right now. This government knows this. We hear them, finally admitting to it, that there is a complexity crisis that's happening in our classroom. And I do wish that perhaps we had been bringing forth some legislation that was going to address some of those more critical, more pressing issues. When we look at complexity, just to give a bit of an idea on scale, I had mentioned this earlier today that we have just over 68,000 classrooms in Alberta that have been identified with medium or higher complexity. If we look at a couple school districts, just for an example, because this government has provided some funding for complexity teams, but just for a couple examples, Rocky View School District, they have 45 schools that are reporting complex classrooms, but only 12 complexity teams that have actually been allocated for that school division. So it's quite a heavy lift for those 12 teams. You look at CBE, of course, our largest school division in the province, 234 schools that have reportable classrooms with complexity. So it's just a bit over 13,000 reportable classrooms. 88% of those classrooms are reporting at medium or high complexity, and so that means 5 or more complex students. And then a number of schools within that division, such as Terry Fox School or Dr. Gladys McKelvey Egbert. Now, unfortunately, these are junior highs, so even though they have over 50 reportable classrooms with 11 or more students who are rated as high complexity, there are no complexity teams for these schools because they are junior high and high schools. And we know, of course, that there wasn't any funding made available to those higher grade schools. The complexity issue in our classrooms, that's something that I hear about every day from Albertans, both from residents in Calgary-Beddington and then just more broadly, of course, from the many parents I have the pleasure of interacting with. I don't hear as much with concerns around a lack of information in the curriculum about oil and gas or agriculture or construction. And, it could just be that those parents like me are having conversations with their kids at home about what makes it go in Alberta. Where are the jobs? What kind of jobs should our kids be preparing for? Those are, definitely conversations that we're happy to have around the table. I think that when I'm thinking about priorities too, we're missing an opportunity. We don't get many opportunities, Mr. Speaker, to table legislation in this chamber, and certainly not as a private member. you know, it's a draw that comes up. You might be lucky to get one piece of legislation. There are members on this side of the chamber that have never had the opportunity to bring a private member's bill in front of this chamber. And so it's something that I would hope that members do with a lot of thought and thought towards what are the biggest priorities for Albertans right now. What are the biggest concerns? And so when we're talking about amending the Education Act, I wonder why we aren't addressing some of the other big curriculum concerns that we have. If you look at the grade 6 math PAT grades, Mr. Speaker, there is a huge problem in this government's math curriculum. And that is something that is affecting not just students today, but is going to trickle forward for many years. It's going to put the precious PISA scores at risk if we don't do something to address the grave errors that have occurred in this government's approach to the math curriculum. I see the hand coming down, and I know many members will want to offer comments. So.
Member for Vermilion, Lloydminster, Wainwright.
Mr. Speaker, it's my honour to rise today and speak to Bill 207, the Primary Provincial Industry Statutes Amendment Act, and I will speak to the bill. Like many of the members in this room, I grew up knowing people who worked with their hands, people who got up before the sun and came home tired but always proud. They were farmers, rig workers, truck drivers, construction workers, welders, and forest workers. Their jobs weren't always easy. In fact, they rarely were. Sometimes their work was cold or dangerous and often invisible to those who didn't live in it. But those tough jobs, they built this province, Mr. Speaker, and they continue to. These industries didn't just create jobs, they created communities and opportunities. They and the hardworking people who have rolled up their sleeves and got to work are responsible for the Alberta we know today. Bill 207 is all about highlighting what we in this chamber already know. These industries are the backbone of our province: energy, agriculture, construction, and forestry. We want to ensure that the next generation understands the profound impact of these sectors, have had on Alberta's success over the centuries. Alberta's industries are what we're known for. Being hardworking people is what we're known for. Mr. Speaker, that is something to be proud of. And yet many students finish school without a clear picture of what these industries do and what career opportunities they offer. They don't always learn how energy powers our economy or how agriculture feeds millions at home and abroad. They don't understand how forestry and construction supports nearly every other sector in the economy. It's time we change that. We want to open the door for education that tells the full story of Alberta's primary industries, because they are not only central to our past, they are also essential to our present and future. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are supported by them. They generate billions in economic activity, which directly translates into funding for hospitals, schools, infrastructure, and social services. On top of this, they provide stable, well-paying careers for families across our province. Energy, especially oil and natural gas, have been central to Alberta's growth and identity. Without it, the province would look vastly different today. The discovery of natural gas in Turner Valley in 1914 or oil in Leduc in 1947 marked the beginning of the new and prosperous area for Alberta. Those discoveries led to sustained economic growth, and we still benefit from generations later. Oil and gas revenues have helped build core infrastructure, supported public investments, and made Alberta a destination for families and workers seeking opportunity. Communities all over the province exist because energy development was made available. Given the recent National NDP Convention and their choice for a party's new leader, I think it is important, more important than ever, to highlight how important oil and gas are for Albertans. In fact, it is important to highlight how significant oil and gas are to the entire country, Mr. Speaker. These sectors are key economic drivers across the province, from big cities to small towns. They have long been described as central to Canada's emergence as an energy leader on a world stage. Without them, Alberta and Canada would not be the places they are today. Mr. Speaker, it is also important to recognize the people behind all of this success. Our energy sector has been built by workers who put in long hours, work in tough conditions, and develop world-class expertise. These are geologists, engineers, tradespeople, operators, technicians, and countless others whose work has directly contributed to Alberta's prosperity. Bill 207 will ensure these contributions receive the acknowledgement they deserve. By establishing instruction on Alberta's primary industries, students will be better able to understand why these sectors are so important and what careers they offer. Mr. Speaker, this is about awareness and education, not promotion and politics. It is very important to consider this bill right now because our hands-on industries are facing labour shortages. Trades and technical roles are in demand across energy, agriculture, construction, and forestry. These careers are essential to maintaining Alberta's prosperity, yet too often they are overlooked in favour of more traditional academic paths. This is not to say that every student should pursue a career in these industries. It is simply about ensuring they are informed. We have an opportunity to rebalance the narrative and show students that skilled trades and hands-on work are respected, rewarding, and vital to Alberta. We cannot stress enough to the youth of this province that careers in these sectors are what keep Alberta competitive and economically strong. Mr. Speaker, the introduction of an annual Fossil Fuel Recognition Day would contribute to this awareness. The day that would be about acknowledging reality. Fossil fuels have played a critical role in the development of Alberta and its economic success for well over a century. Recognizing that history does not dismiss innovation, like many eco-activists would have you think. This isn't about being stagnant. In fact, it's already shown that economic development and resource management go hand in hand. I've been proud to advocate for the annual Fossil Fuel Recognition Day because I believe it is important for all Albertans, especially students, to learn about the origins of our energy industry, its lasting impact, and its role in shaping Alberta's identity as a province of prosperity and opportunity. Mr. Speaker, our modern economy didn't appear overnight. It has been built deliberately through expertise, investment, and a heavy dose of elbow grease. Bill 207 is about giving recognition where it's due and educating the younger generation. It reflects a lived experience of thousands of Albertans who know firsthand that oil and gas, forestry, and construction and agriculture have and will continue to be significant. For a province that is built on energy and hard work, that recognition is appropriate, especially and quite frankly, long overdue. That is why I continue to stand in favour of a Fossil Fuel Recognition Day and Bill 207 introduced by my colleague from Grand Prairie. Thank you very much.
Member for Edmonton Southwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to Bill 207, the Primary Provincial Industries Recognition Statutes Amendment Act 2026. And let me begin here. As an Alberta New Democrat, I support the energy sector. And on this side of the House, we support the people who work in oil and gas, in agriculture, in forestry, in construction, and in the many related sectors that have helped build this province. We understand the importance of these industries to Alberta's economy, to family incomes, to public services, and to the identity of communities across this province. That has always been true, and it remains true today. And so this is why this bill is so frustrating in so many ways, Mr. Speaker, because it's not serious legislation at a time when Albertans are dealing with an affordability crisis, a healthcare crisis, and our young people, our youth employment rate has never been higher, food insecurity has never been higher. And so rather than addressing the priorities of Albertans, we are debating a bill that is largely performative because it doesn't create more jobs, it doesn't help energy workers. What it does instead, Mr. Speaker, is it creates a holy cow for political theater, and it doesn't help everyday Albertans. Because beneath this symbolism, there is no serious economic plan. There isn't even a serious education plan that will support the skilled trade sector. I'd like to take a few moments to talk about the limitations of this bill, and then I'd like to share with you, Mr. Speaker, what we plan to do on this side of the House to actually support the energy sector. So what does this bill do? What Bill 207 actually does is fairly limited. It amends the Education Act to require age-appropriate instruction in what it calls primary provincial industries defined as fossil fuel resource development, forestry, agriculture, and construction. It says this instruction is to include the role these industries play in Alberta's prosperity, the public revenues they generate, potential career opportunities, and Fossil Fuel Recognition Day. The bill also amends the Special Days Act to designate February 13th as Fossil Fuel Recognition Day, and it would come into force on January 1st, 2027. Now, on the surface, one might say, what is wrong with teaching students about Alberta's major industries? All sounds reasonable, right? But here's the problem, Mr. Speaker. The government can already do this. Aside from the fact that they have a dismal record when it comes to curriculum development, it's totally inappropriate for government to insert themselves into education for political purposes. The Education Minister already has broad authority over curriculum. The government already has the power to shape what students learn, and in fact, many school divisions across the province already incorporate learning about the energy sector along with other skilled trades in their various career pathways, trades, and CTS initiatives. I recall that as a school board trustee with our Careers Pathways initiatives, certainly the energy sector was part of it. Now keep in mind, Bill 207 doesn't fix a structural problem in our education system. It is, let's call it for what it is. It's a performative political gesture that does nothing for everyday Albertans. Let's also not forget that this is the same government that bungled the curriculum redraft. They did away with a highly respected version, one that was supported by different administrations across different political stripes and education experts, and they replaced it with something much inferior. The UCP's draft K-12 curriculum did not align with Alberta Education's own vision and has outcomes that educators described as developmentally inappropriate. The UCP draft curriculum expected very young children to memorize a long list of names, landmarks, and events, including famous artists. We saw grade 1 social studies pushed into ancient Mesopotamia and lessons on BCE and CE, and experts pointed out that children at that age should be learning about their own communities and lived experiences. Educators said the draft was not logically sequenced, was developmentally inappropriate, and had twice as many learning outcomes as the existing curriculum. Even educators and teachers that the government invited into the process later said their input was largely ignored and warned that the draft would not help students develop critical thinking skills. And Indigenous organizations raised serious concerns as well, with the Métis Nation of Alberta calling for a redraft. And as if all of this were not enough, parts of the curriculum were even accused of plagiarism. Mr. Speaker, that is this government's record on curriculum. They took what was once a world-class curriculum and made it into one that is sorely lacking in real skills that will help prepare students for the world of tomorrow. And again, Bill 207 is not a serious effort to improve student learning, and really just another attempt to politicize what happens in the classrooms. Now, our agriculture industry is one of the economic foundations of this province. Primary agriculture employs nearly 45,000 Albertans, while another 39,000 work in the broader agri-food industry. Alberta's agri-food exports were nearly $18 billion in 2023, and total farm cash receipts were $23.3 billion. Alberta leads Canada in beef production, and canola and wheat remain among our most valuable crops. The same is true of forestry. Alberta's forest industry directly employs over 18,000 people, supports another 27,000 jobs in related industries, and contributes more than $8 billion to the provincial economy and plays a central role in many rural communities. And similarly, the construction industry employs about 250,000 of Albertans. It builds homes, the schools, the roads, the hospitals, and the public infrastructure that make this province function. And yes, that's the same is true of oil and gas. No one is arguing with the importance of these sectors that form part of Alberta's bench strengths when it comes to the economy. But let's also be clear, this bill does nothing to help any of the sectors that I just mentioned. And I want to take a moment to actually talk about the record, our record on this side of the House, because it was the Alberta's New Democrats that actually got a pipeline built to Tidewater. It was the Alberta's New Democrats that moved the Trans Mountain expansion forward, the first pipeline to Tidewater our province has seen in decades. And because of that work, thousands of Albertans have been employed to build, maintain, and operate that project and the broader industry that it supports. And because of what an Alberta New Democrat government has accomplished, Alberta has reaped the benefits and scale of that impact. So 14,600 construction jobs, 13,300 pipeline operations jobs, and hundreds of thousands of jobs connected to the broader industry, all thanks to what an Alberta New Democrat government was able to accomplish. So let us reject the lazy suggestion that supporting workers in oil and gas, forestry, agriculture, and construction belongs to the UCP, because it does not. Alberta's New Democrat support these sectors because we support Alberta's economy. But supporting these industries should mean more than proposing performative legislation. It should actually mean making decisions that strengthen investor confidence, expand market access, and create long-term opportunities. And this is where this government's record falls short. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk a little bit about what we plan to do as the Alberta New Democrats. On this side of the House, we have a concrete energy plan built around market access, export capacity, grid reliability, and new industrial growth. Our plan proposes optimizing the Trans Mountain expansion to add more than 300,000 barrels per day of additional capacity. It also supports working with Indigenous communities and other governments on a new West Coast pipeline option, exploring new export routes in multiple directions, revisiting projects such as Energy East, and increasing natural gas capacity. Let's have serious legislation. Thank you.
Recognize the member from Grand Prairie, Wapiti.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to rise today and speak in strong support of Bill 207, the Primary Provincial Industries Statute Amendment Act. This bill is an important and practical step towards strengthening Alberta's workforce, supporting our economy, and helping young Albertans understand the many career opportunities available to them right here in Alberta. Bill 207 is about giving students better information, real choices, and a clearer picture of how they can build a good future in this province. Mr. Speaker, Alberta's primary industries are the foundation of our province. Energy, agriculture, forestry, transportation, and construction are not only key drivers of our economy, they are also deeply tied to who we are as Albertans. These industries employ thousands of people across urban and rural communities. They support families, keep towns and cities thriving, and generate the revenue that helps fund our schools, hospitals, roads, and other public services Albertans rely on. Despite how important these industries are, many young Albertans have only limited understanding of what they actually do or the kinds of careers they offer. Too often, students move through the education system without learning how closely these industries are connected to everyday life in Alberta. Bill 207 takes direct actions to address that gap. This legislation ensures that students are taught about the role primary industries play in our economy and the wide range of jobs they create. These are not just type 1 careers or one type of careers. They include engineers, technologists, operators, and many other skilled trades. These are good-paying, hands-on jobs that offer stability, pride, and long-term career growth. Mr. Speaker, for too long, many young people have been made to feel like success only comes from following a narrow path. As a result, some students finish high school unsure of what they want to do or unaware of the careers that might suit them better. Bill 207 helps change that by giving students clear and accurate information earlier so that they can make informed choices about their future. This bill also responds to very real challenges facing Alberta today. Primary industries across our province are experiencing workforce shortages. Many experienced workers are retiring. Projects are expanding, and employers are struggling to find enough new workers to meet the demand. This is happening in energy, farming, forestry, transportation, construction, and skilled trades across Alberta. If these shortages continue, they could have serious long-term impacts. They could slow down projects, increase costs, and weaken industries that Albertans rely on every day. Bill 207 is a forward-looking, common-sense way to help address this issue by encouraging more young people to see these industries as real, viable career options. Mr. Speaker, by raising awareness in the classrooms, this bill helps keep students explore paths they might never have considered before. It shows them that primary industries are not outdated or declining fields, but modern sectors that use advanced technology, innovation, and problem-solving skills. For students who enjoy working with their hands, learning on the job, or seeing the results of their work in the real world, these careers can be a perfect fit. Trades and hands-on careers are absolutely essential in Alberta. They are people who build our homes, schools, and hospitals. They maintain our roads, bridges, and infrastructure. They grow our food, manage our forests, and help produce the energy that powers our province. These jobs keep Alberta moving forward. Mr. Speaker, these careers are not backup plans or second-best options. They require skill, training, and dedication, and they deserve respect and recognition. Hear, hear. Bill 207 helps ensure that our education system reflects on that reality by presenting students with a full picture of the opportunities available to them. It is also important to be clear that this bill does not push students in any one career path. No one is being forced into a trade or an industry. Instead, Bill 207 expands awareness. It gives students knowledge, and knowledge creates choice. When young people understand their options, they are better equipped to choose a path that fits their interests, strengths, and goals. Mr. Speaker, another key benefit of this legislation is that it helps keep talent in Alberta. When students can rely clearly on when students can clearly see career opportunities close to home, they are more likely to stay, work, and raise their families here. Yeah. This is especially important for rural communities that rely heavily on primary industries that face challenges attracting young workers. By building strong connections between education and industry, Bill 207 helps ensure that what students learn in the school lines up with their real-world needs. This makes our education system more practical, responsive, and relevant. It benefits students, employers, and the province as a whole. In closing, Mr. Speaker, Bill 207 is built on a simple idea. Informed students make better decisions, and better decisions lead to a stronger Alberta. By teaching young people about primary industries and the careers that they support, we invest in our workforce, our economy, and our long-term future. I urge all members of this Assembly to support Bill 207 and stand with Alberta's workforce, students, and industries. Together, we can ensure that the next generation is informed, prepared, and proud to build their future in the industries that have always built this province. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Recognize the member for Calgary Foothills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to stand and speak to Bill 207, Primary Provincial Industries Recognition Statutes Amendment Act. I want to take a minute to, because I think that, maybe just to dispel some myths about our side of the house, where we come from, what we're all about. In hearing earlier the member from Grand Prairie speak, the member from Grand Prairie Wapiti speak, I just want to talk a little bit about the North, because I didn't really hear a lot of conversation about the North and what these industries are in the North and kind of what that means. And maybe I'll just start out a little bit saying in talking about agriculture, because I do spend a lot of time with agricultural constituents and going to agricultural advocacy days and events and learning about agriculture. And I would say walking into those rooms, Mr. Speaker, that I feel a little bit like the odd man out, having grown up on a farm, but my dad was a beekeeper. And very rarely am I in a room with beekeepers. I'm in a room with people who are producing grain crops, oil crops, maybe they're cattle or beef producers, but they're probably not beekeepers. But beekeepers, I don't want us to forget, since we're talking about here, like not forgetting about these industries that are important for Alberta, I just want to throw out there, let's not forget about beekeepers. Yes to honey, right? Yes to honey. I have my own particular, like what kind of honey is the best kind of honey. So maybe we don't need to get into that in the House today. But I do, have some fun sometimes in chatting with people about beekeeping, about honey production, because this is an Alberta story. Alberta produces the majority of Canada's honey. And the majority of Alberta's production, the large majority of Alberta's production, is from the north. It's from the Peace District, because the Peace District has the conditions in place for honey production. In the Peace District, there are still, many farmers that do crop rotations. And so they grow clover and alfalfa in between their rotations of their grain crops, which of course, as everybody knows, because clover and alfalfa are nitrogen fixers. And this is a natural way to fertilize your fields. And so because also in the north, in the Peace River country, we have long days. We have long summer days, which gives the bees a long time to work, to go out there and gather the nectar and the pollen to produce that honey. And there are some that say even that because of those long days, there's some research around like the longer summer day versus the shorter summer day actually changes the nature of the honey itself, the taste and flavor, and even the quality of the honey and the health aspects of that honey. And so, I grew up on a farm. My dad, it was just me and my dad. My dad had 400 hives of bees. And I also enjoy saying to people, when you say to somebody that you grew up on a farm and your dad was a beekeeper, everybody's like, whoa, that is so cool. It's not as sexy as you think it is. So just let me tell you, when it's like 34 degrees and you got to wear like 3 layers of clothes and the veil, it's stinking hot out there. And those boxes that you're throwing around, they weigh 160 pounds. So you spend 14 hours in 32-degree heat wearing 3 layers of clothes, throwing around 160-pound boxes, and then you get to go into a house, into a building that you heat so that the honey will flow. It's not as sexy as you think it is. It is also, you grow up in a house when your dad is a beekeeper, there is honey on everything. Every surface in your home is sticky. But I will also say that this gave me a love for both the product, the process, those who are in the industry. We obviously knew a lot of other beekeepers when I was growing up. It put us in touch with a lot of other farmers because beekeepers, they do their work on everybody else's land. Beekeepers don't have 5,000 acres or at least 20,000 acres. They put their hives on everybody else's land, and you drive around to everybody else's land, so you get to know a ton of people in your community. And so I also understand the value of beekeeping and agriculture in building community. So I get it when we put forward a bill like this. And I hope that maybe more people on the other side of the house, when we talk about agriculture, are going to talk about beekeeping. And how important beekeeping is for Alberta and how important it is for the North. It employs a lot of people. It keeps a lot of families on the land. It gives you that knowledge of the land, that when you're a beekeeper, you notice the activities of birds and bugs, and you know when a storm is coming. When you're a beekeeper, you become attuned to, again, when the storm is coming, the smell, I'm sure, like who grew up on a farm who's used to rural Alberta, the smell before the rain of like when the humidity starts to build in the air and it changes the smell and you know that that rainstorm is coming. So I'm fond of agriculture, and I'm down with a bill that is going to talk more about agriculture with school kids. I've also talked to teachers and producers about, what are the activities that we have where they're coming together and kids are learning more about agriculture. I also find it's both funny and frustrating when I'm with friends of mine that grew up in the city and I'm driving somewhere and we're like driving along and they're looking out at a field and they're like, what is that? And I look at them and I'm like, you're kidding me, right? You don't know what crop this is, which blows my mind. And I too believe that when we're growing up in this place, everybody should have the opportunity to know what it is that we grow here, how we manufacture that, and what it means to people. I believe that we should have a stronger connection with our food. I think if we had stronger connections with our food, where it comes from, how we grow it, how we use it, that we would have healthier communities. So this isn't just about youth knowing where job opportunities are. It can also be about us having healthier communities. When people understand more about food and where it comes from and what the nutrient values are of the food and the differences between food that's grown locally and food that is shipped in from somewhere else. So I think we should be doing that work. But I do, since I know I'm getting close to time, so I thought I would also just throw out, because I've done a lot of work in economic development and investment attraction, I do just want to be a little bit nitpicky. Construction isn't a primary industry. So a primary industry, there are 3 kinds of industries: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Primary industries are extractive industries. Construction is a secondary industry. It's more like a manufacturing kind of industry. So to be nitpicky, if we're going to call it a Primary Industries Act, we shouldn't be including construction. So maybe you want to change the name to primary and secondary. But then I also don't want us to lose sight of, I appreciate what we really want is youth to understand the really great jobs and careers that they can have in these industries, and I'm down for that. But I also want kids to know, youth in Alberta to know, like just the incredible diversity of jobs that are open and available to them. I don't want us to ever lose sight that, you know, you can work in tourism, and that also can give you an incredibly valuable career. You can work in tech, and it can allow you to do things that maybe you never imagined. You can work in health and maybe change the world and the lives of Albertans around you. And so when we think about the bill, let's, again, not forget about beekeeping, but also, like, youth in Alberta today should be learning about all of the opportunities that are available to them. So let's not be short-sighted, and let's just make sure that we're always talking about the greatness of this province and what's available.
I'll recognize the member for Calgary Law.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'm pleased to rise and speak in support of this bill, but more importantly, speak on behalf of the people who will live and experience the results of the decisions we make in this chamber, the young people of Alberta. Bill 207 is about education, yes. It's about economic literacy as well. But most importantly, it's about vision. It's about recognizing that when we place our youth at the center of our decision-making, when we empower them with knowledge, opportunity, and choice, we're not just shaping careers, we're shaping the future of this province. This bill will establish age-appropriate instruction in Alberta classrooms on the province's primary economic industries. That means helping students understand the industries that power our province: energy, agriculture, forestry, construction, and the skilled trades. These are not abstract concepts. These are the industries that heat our homes, feed our families, build our infrastructure, and sustain our economy. Too often, we assume young people will figure it out. We assume they'll discover these opportunities on their own, or that they will naturally follow the paths taken by our parents and grandparents. But that assumption leaves far too many of them behind. Right now, too many students graduate without a clear understanding of what these industries actually do, how they support Alberta's economy, or what kind of careers exist within them. Too many of our youth think these industries as jobs out of their wheelhouse. That is far from the truth. We want our youth directly involved, Mr. Speaker. We want them to recognize that these are not just jobs, but rather meaningful, fulfilling, well-paying careers. Careers that offer sustainability, stability, pride, and purpose. At the same time, we're facing a troubling reality. Like many jurisdictions across the country, our youth are being phased out of work opportunities. They're competing not only with their peers for limited entry-level positions, but increasingly with older, more experienced individuals entering Alberta's labour market. This is not a criticism, it is a reality. And if we fail to respond to it, the cost will be paid by an entire generation of young Albertans who feel locked out of the workforce. That is where this bill matters, Mr. Speaker. By introducing students early to the breadth of Alberta's economic landscape, we expand the number of doors available to them. We diversify the pathways they can pursue. We ease competition by showing young people that success does not exist in a single lane, in a single industry, or in a single definition handed down by circumstance. Mr. Speaker, this bill also confronts another challenge we can no longer ignore: the disconnect where young people come from and where they believe they're allowed to go. Today, young people growing up in cities are less likely to pursue careers in agriculture, energy, or forestry, with their aspirations increasingly oriented toward finance, technology, entertainment, or innovation. At the same time, many youth growing up in rural areas feel a quiet but persistent pressure to stay on the farm, work in oil and gas, or continue the legacy of earlier generations. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of these paths. But the problem arises when choice is replaced by expectation and curiosity is replaced by limitation. When our youth, whether urban or rural, feel they're expected to stay in the city or on the farm, we limit their ability to grow, to learn, and to contribute. These barriers are not the result of unwillingness or lack of talent. They're the barriers we have built through silence, through assumptions, and through an education system that too often fails to show young people the full picture.
This bill seeks to tear down these walls. We want city kids working on farms, learning where their food comes from, understanding the innovation and technology that agriculture demands. And we want farm kids walking through office towers in our cities, exploring careers in finance, business, entertainment, and beyond. We want young Albertans to feel equally welcome and equally capable wherever opportunity calls them. Because when young people see possibility everywhere, they grow into adults who contribute everywhere. Mr. Speaker, it's no secret that there's an urgent need in our labour market for our hands-on sectors. Energy industries that are foundational to our province are struggling to find the next generation of skilled workers, and it's because too few young people are being shown why they matter or how they fit into it. Education is the bridge, information is the bridge, and exposure is the bridge. And like all of us know, increased exposure leads to increased expansion. By requiring classrooms to teach students about how these industries strengthen our province and the diverse career paths they offer, we close the information gap. We ensure that choices made at 18 are not made in the dark, but with a clear understanding of opportunity, demand, and potential. And when we do that, we do more than fill jobs. We build confidence, independence, and hope. Alberta has never been blind to the importance of trades and hands-on careers. We did not become the engine of this country by sitting on our hands. We became that engine by lacing up our bootstraps, rolling up our sleeves, and putting in the work. The men and women who built this province did so with grit, skill, and determination. Our responsibility now is to ensure the next generation has the same chance, not by forcing them down a single path, but by illuminating every path available to them. This bill recognizes that youth are not just the future voters or future workers, they're future leaders, innovators, builders, and caregivers. When we invest in them, we invest in stronger communities. When we trust them with knowledge, we trust them with responsibility. And when we believe in their potential, they rise to meet it. If we want a prosperous Alberta, a resilient Alberta, and a united Alberta, we must continue to center our youth in the decisions we make today. Mr. Speaker, investing in our youth is investing in our future. It's not an option. It's not a decision we get to make based on how we feel. It's mandatory, it's necessary, and it requires action every single day. For those reasons, I urge all members of this House to support Bill 207, not just for the industries it strengthens, but for the generation it empowers and the future it secures for all of us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Fort Saskatchewan-Vegreville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to offer my support for Bill 207, the Primary Provincial Industry Statute Amendment Act, and to explain why this legislation matters to the future of Alberta. At its heart, the bill is about education. It's about opportunity, and it's about ensuring young Albertans understand the industries that built this province and continue to sustain our economy today. Alberta's primary industries include energy, agriculture, forestry, and construction, and are not abstract concepts. They are the backbone of our communities. They provide stable jobs, attract investment, and support public services that families rely on every single day. Yet too many students graduate without a clear understanding of what these industries do, how they contribute to our prosperity, or to the meaningful careers they offer. That is the gap this bill addresses. Bill 207 ensures that Alberta's classrooms include age-appropriate instructions on the province's primary economic industries. This is not about advocacy, it's about awareness. It's about giving young people the information they need to make informed decisions about their futures. Across Alberta, employers in hands-on sectors are struggling to find workers, like in my constituency of Fort Saskatchewan-Vegreville, the home of the industrial heartland. Tradespeople, equipment operators, technicians, and skilled labourers are in high demand, yet students are too often unaware of these paths or incorrectly believe that this success only comes through a narrow route. This disconnect does not serve our students, it does not serve families, and it certainly does not serve the province. By teaching students how primary industries operate and the roles they play in our economy, this bill helps close that information gap. It shows students that rewarding, well-paying careers exist in fields that build our homes, power our industries, produce our food, and manage our natural resources. Trades and hands-on careers are essential to Alberta. They keep our communities running, they support major projects and small businesses alike, and they deserve the same respect and visibility as any other profession. Mr. Speaker, when students understand the real-world applications of what they learn in school, education becomes more meaningful. A lesson about energy production is no longer theoretical when students understand how it translates to jobs in their community. A discussion about forestry has greater impact when students learn how it supports rural economies and responsible land stewardship. This bill makes education more connected to real life and benefits students from every background. This legislation also establishes an annual Field Recognition Day on February 13th. This day acknowledges a reality that is impossible to ignore. Without fossil fuels, Alberta would not be in the province that it is today. From the discovery of natural gas in Turner Valley in 1914 to the oil strike in Leduc in 1947, fossil fuels have played a central role in shaping Alberta's economic story. They have funded schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. They've drawn people from across the country and around the world in search of opportunity, recognizing that history is not about living in the past. It's about understanding where we came from and how we arrived at the present. An annual day of recognition does not prevent discussions about innovation, environmental responsibility, or economic diversification. In fact, it strengthens them. You cannot plan for the future without understanding the foundation you're built on. This recognition offers a chance for thoughtful, age-appropriate conversations in classrooms about how these industries have evolved, how they continue to change, and the role young Albertans may play in shaping the next chapter. Mr. Speaker, Bill 207 is not about telling students what career to choose. It does not limit ambition or dictate direction. It expands horizons. It ensures students know that success can take many forms, whether that path lead to a construction site, a farm, a processing facility, or a university classroom. It respects families by giving students accurate information rather than assumptions. It respects communities by acknowledging the industries that sustain them. And it respects workers whose skills and labour continue to keep Alberta strong. Importantly, this bill does not impose complex new systems. It builds on existing education frameworks. It focuses on learning outcomes that reflect Alberta's economic reality. And it does so in a practical and responsible way. Mr. Speaker, Alberta's strength has always come from people who work with their hands and their minds, people who take pride in building, producing, and providing. When we teach young people about the industries that do this work, we show them that their contributions matter and that their province values their potential. This is also about long-term sustainability. Worker shortages in primary industries will not solve themselves. If we want these sectors to remain competitive and innovative, we need to ensure a new generation understands the opportunities available and feels welcome to them. Bill 207 supports that goal. To the students wondering what comes after graduation, this bill says there are many paths worth exploring. To the family concerned about job prospects close to home, it says that opportunities do exist. And to the workers who have spent decades building Alberta, it says your work is worth recognizing and teaching. Mr. Speaker, strong provinces are built on knowledge, respect, and opportunity. Knowledge of our history, our economy, respect for industries and people who sustain us, and the opportunity for the next generation to build a future they can be proud of. Bill 207 reflects this. For these reasons, I'm proud to support Bill 207, the Primary Provincial Industry Statutes Amendment Act, and I encourage all members of the Assembly to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Minister for Energy and Minerals.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I was listening a little bit to the NDP side, Mr. Speaker, and I was wondering the relevance in relation to the support of Primary Provincial Industry Statutes Amendment Act, which I support, Bill 207. And then I thought, Mr. Speaker, it must be the Fossil Fuel Appreciation Day in that similarity, in that fossil fuels create hot air, and they were creating hot air at the same time, because I couldn't see really the relevance in what they were talking about. They did talk about schools, Mr. Speaker, and they're right about schools being relevant because, of course, fossil fuels in Alberta, Mr. Speaker, pay for schools. They pay for hospitals. I heard them talk about health care too, Mr. Speaker, and they pay for all the things. And in fact, we wouldn't have a construction industry, Mr. Speaker, in this great province if people didn't want to come to this great province, and they wouldn't come to this great province if they didn't have fossil fuel jobs. Mr. Speaker, this province was built on fossil fuels, and in fact, Not only did we build the province on fossil fuels, Mr. Speaker, and the exploitation of that, but we perfected it through technology and innovation, better technology and innovation than anywhere else in the entire planet. We also have the greatest regulator in the province, in the world, Mr. Speaker, the Alberta Energy Regulator, which indicates that we should be a place of absolute greatness for fossil fuels, being that we have the 4th largest reserve of oil in the world, Mr. Speaker, and with BC, the 9th largest reserve of natural gas. Not only that, Mr. Speaker, but recently the Alberta Geological Survey announced that we are actually potentially home to the 3rd largest lithium deposit on the entire planet. Wow. And that's found in brine wells, Mr. Speaker, brine and old oil wells. It's all about technology. But the members from the opposition were right about something, Mr. Speaker. It's time to go back to school. Because, Mr. Speaker, when they say that the NDP are responsible for TMX, well, you do a little history lesson and you find out that TMX, actually, the first one was actually built in 1952. And I don't remember them being in power here in Alberta in 1952. I think most people right now that were in power then would roll over in their graves if they heard that. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if you want to know more about it, in 1951 they decided to build it. In 1952 they built it. In 1953 it was in operation. Wow! Doesn't sound like any TMX build to me. Sounds like somebody knew what they were doing back then. I think it was a Conservative government, Mr. Speaker, if I'm not mistaken. But I will tell you, Mr. Speaker, if you go back and you see the history again a little bit more, there was an expansion in 2013. They weren't in power then either, Mr. Speaker. It was a Conservative government in Alberta. And in Ottawa. What? Yes, Mr. Speaker. And then, of course, we did get the first shipment TMX in 2024, and well, my gosh, golly gee, it was another Conservative government, Mr. Speaker, here in Alberta. So I guess we are right about something, Mr. Speaker. This is a good bill because they should go back to school and learn a little bit more about Alberta's history, Mr. Speaker, and how amazing it is to come from a province that is an energy superpower, built on fossil fuels, built on the innovation and creativity of amazing Albertans that took something that was basically dirt, Mr. Speaker, and parts of dirt, and created something amazing out of it today. An energy superpower in oil and gas. Mr. Speaker, sometimes people, and we have over the years, heard a lot of rhetoric about anti-oil and gas dogma from people like Greta Thunberg and David Suzuki, those great educators, Mr. Speaker, who don't care about anybody but themselves when they're talking about fossil fuels, because those folks take more jet flights than anybody I know. You see David Suzuki goes from one part of the world to another, Mr. Speaker, and jets use a lot of fossil fuel. In fact, I think at the Winnipeg Convention this week, I wonder how they got there, Mr. Speaker. All those naysayers to fossil fuels, did they fly? Did they drive? Did they walk? Did they burn sticks outside the convention center to keep warm, Mr. Speaker? When I get up in the morning and I take a warm shower, fueled by natural gas, that fossil fuel, I really appreciate that, Mr. Speaker, especially when my furnace turns on and I get up and I don't have to worry about the cold because I live in -30 in Fort McMurray most of the time, at least all winter anyways. And Mr. Speaker, when I get in my truck, man, I love that thing when a command starts because guess what? I walk from my front door into my truck and it's going and it runs on oil, Mr. Speaker. And then I get in that truck and I can travel anywhere around Canada and Alberta, Mr. Speaker, and for work, for education, for enjoyment. I live in the greatest place in the world, Mr. Speaker, funded by the incredible people that work in our industry, and I'm very proud of them. Mr. Speaker, let's look at other jurisdictions, though, that do things a little differently than we do. Let's look at Oklahoma, because they've gotten back to the basics, Mr. Speaker. They actually take pride in their trades and instill that pride in the students that go to their schools. This truly needs to be second nature, Mr. Speaker. We need to think more outside the box about how we get people to appreciate what really brought us to this point of being the best place in the world to live, work, and play. What the state of Oklahoma does is they work with industry regulators, Mr. Speaker. They've developed curriculum for all grades to ensure that their students are not only aware of the opportunities ahead, in oil and gas, by the way, but that the skills they need are developed from an early age. How early, you might ask, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker? Kindergarten. Can you believe it that they go back that far? Why? I have a 7-year-old child right now. I just spent some time with her this weekend. And I will tell you, I can't imagine a better education for her than learning about the things that actually pay for everything that she wants to go through life. Fossil fuels in Alberta, for instance, that provide so much, not just for Albertans, Mr. Speaker, not just for the First Nations, not just for the environment, but for the entire country and a lot of the world. A lot of people don't know this, but Albertans are the most generous givers in the entire planet. That's right, Madam Speaker. They give a lot of money, and that's because they get a lot of money from fossil fuels. I live in Fort McMurray, and I think it's still the highest household income in the country. Over $200,000 per house, Madam Speaker. Great jobs, all in the oil and gas industry. I thank them for the opportunity they've given me and all of my family who have all worked in that industry. But I will tell you, in Oklahoma, they teach hands-on science-based curriculum designed to help kids learn about energy sources from a very early age. Geology, density, matter, porosity, and sound waves. Yes, fossil fuels, Madam Speaker, that's how we get them out of the ground these days. It's not just taking a shovel and digging them out, it's actually scientific, and a lot of work goes into it before we are successful with it. Now, they teach math concepts like measurements, mass, volumes, data organization, decimals, and fractions, all related to the energy industry. By the time they hit grade 9 through grade 12, the programming is throughout their core subjects, Madam Speaker, encouraging critical thinking. The curriculum is designed by educators, recognizing how important fossil fuels are to their economy. And for Oklahoma, it's about preparing their next generation to make the most of the opportunities they have in their state, in jobs, Madam Speaker, in careers, in the future, because they recognize how important that is, not just to Oklahoma, not just to energy security for the U.S., but for the free world. Nice. This is the thing. We have a better regulatory system here in Alberta. We have a better industry knowledge base. We have led the world in energy innovation for the last 50 years with a small population, Madam Speaker. By no means do we have to copy their homework, Madam Speaker, but what we should do is make sure that when we do this, we do it right. Because let's face it, Madam Speaker, the NDP were in power for a period of time, and during that period of time, might I mention that the leader of the opposition was the Mayor of Calgary. And speaking of fossil fuels, Madam Speaker, do you know that coal makes steel? It's true. You can make pipes, you can make water pipes with coal, and you can make steel rings with coal, Madam Speaker, with metallurgical coal. Now, the leader of the opposition, when he was mayor between 2019, or I think somewhere around 4 years, 10 years actually, 11 years, in 2019, by the time he was almost finished mayor, Madam Speaker, Calgary was losing 28% of its treated water to leaks. He didn't decide on using that fossil fuel for the right kind of investment. He used it for a blue ring on the side of the highway, Mr. Speaker, and he should have used it for water pipes for the people of Calgary. Can you imagine 28% of your bill going out the drain, literally? Well, that's the legacy of the Liberal leader, or Madam Speaker, the NDP leader, when he was the mayor of Calgary. But, Madam Speaker, we need to look at different opportunities, and in Oklahoma they have, in different jurisdictions around the United States they have, and in different jurisdictions in the world they have. And we need to find the best education for our kids for the future, for the career of the future. I want to give a lot of hope to the people in Fort McMurray, in Lac La Biche, Grand Prairie, Lloydminster, Cold Lake, Madam Speaker. It's no secret the rural communities around Alberta have suffered over the past few years because a lot of people are moving into the big cities. We need to find more opportunities for people in small rural communities, and that means more jobs, more training where they are. The jobs are there, Madam Speaker. We can't have them flying in and out. We can't have them driving in and out. We have to have them living there, moving their families there, raising their families there. It's a better quality of life, Madam Speaker. There was recently a book written by somebody that spent 2 years in the camps, Madam Speaker, and as an ex-recovering divorce and criminal lawyer, I can tell you, there's a lot of people that went through my office that had very, very difficult times.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton City Centre, followed by the Honourable Member for Lexington and Parkland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just want to take a moment to respond to some of the comments from the Minister of Energy. It was regrettable that he chose to use his time speaking to a bill that's private member's bill to engage in the kind of clownish antics we often see from him during question period and folks in this corner of the House. Disappointing to see that he used that time for cheap politics. I mean, after all, there's been so many times we haven't even had an opportunity to hear from that minister because it seemed the Minister of the Environment was the Minister of Energy for quite some time. But that said, I did want to just speak to some of the remarks that the minister brought forward regarding the TMX pipeline. Now, of course, Madam Speaker, the minister's well aware. Everyone in this House is well aware. When we talk about the TMX pipeline that was built, thanks to the advocacy and work of our government, we are speaking of the expansion. Now, the minister laughs, but the fact is the minister has never been part of a government that built any pipeline to Tidewater, either as a federal MP or as a MLA and minister here in Alberta. None of the governments he worked with got a pipeline to Tidewater. Now, the minister is talking about 6 pipelines. None of those pipelines went to Tidewater, Madam Speaker, despite the fact that he sat with a government that had many propositions in front of them that they did not advocate for, that they did not move forward, and that they were unsuccessful on because they handled them so badly. They couldn't handle Indigenous relations in consultation. But that is work, Madam Speaker, that we got done. Our government knew how to do consultation to support those workers in the industry, because that's the thing, Madam Speaker. You can put forward a private member's bill that's performative. You can put forward a private member's bill that says, we will talk about things in schools, we'll talk about education. And those are not unreasonable things. But the fact is, if you want to support those workers in oil and gas, Madam Speaker, you get a pipeline built to Tidewater. And that is, in fact, what happened as a result of the advocacy of our government, the investments from the federal government at the time, and yes, the advocacy of the Leader of the Official Opposition in his role as the Mayor of Calgary. And the benefits and the results of that are concrete. They're indisputable. The jobs that were created in that construction, thousands of them, over half of which were held by Albertans. The over 13,000 pipeline operations jobs, the 400,600 jobs in the broader industry, the fact that that pipeline, that expansion, which was built as a result of the advocacy of our government, not a Conservative government, not the Minister of Energy who continues to laugh and cackle like a hyena. The fact is, the $5.4 billion of revenue that has been added, which his government has squandered, taking some of the highest resource revenue we have seen in quite some time, and returning a $9.4 billion deficit. That is what they have done with the gift that was given to them, Madam Speaker. That is concrete evidence of the work that was done not by this government, not by any Conservative government in Ottawa. So those are the facts. So when we speak about wanting to encourage students to work in the trades, and indeed that's something I fully agree in, that's long been a point of advocacy, I think, amongst folks in the union movement and the labor movement. That's something that our government, when we were in government, invested in and moved forward. I will note that this government, in their budget, with the $9.4 billion deficit, despite near-record resource revenue, they're in fact increasing costs for people to get certified in the trades. So it's well and good to talk about this in schools and encourage people to go into the trades, but then the government is turning around and making it more expensive and more difficult for students to actually do so. And the fact is, during our time in government, we in fact made investments. In just 3 years, we brought in $13 billion of new investment in the energy sector. We promoted diversification of the economy. We put forward programs for alternate uses of petroleum that this government indeed continued and built on, that has led to great investments here. I know Dow Petrochemical, just outside of Sherwood Park, some great facilities and work being done there. So the fact is, we can sit here and take partisan shots across the aisle, and I recognize everyone's pretty energized after the weekend and a lot of things that have happened. The government has their opinion. Of course, we have our opinions about separatists in their midst. We can toss that stuff back and forth. But the fact is, Madam Speaker, both sides of this House support the energy industry. And we have a track record of having done so in extremely concrete ways. which the government can choose to try to mock and deride, but the facts are the facts. The realities are the realities. And so we don't have a problem with supporting Bill 207. Now, certainly we'd love to see more concrete work being done. We'd love to see a government that isn't increasing costs on going into the trades. We'd love to see a government that is respecting Indigenous and treaty rights, which would help an awful lot in the sort of consultations that are going on about future pipelines to the coast, instead of pursuing things like separatism and advancing that and doing everything in their power to roll out the red carpet with great disrespect to Indigenous and First Nations. But we will continue to have those debates in this House. We will continue to have those opportunities. And I look forward to the further debate on Bill 207. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Lexington and Parkland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And, first of all, I like Mondays. It's Private Members Mondays, Madam Speaker. Like, this is kind of a big deal. The gentleman to my left here, I don't know if he's going to show up in camera, but I just want to thank this young gentleman, first-time MLA, coming out of that Grand Prairie country. He could have picked anything in the entire world when he gets pulled here, and he chose to go back to the basics, to get back to the roots, to get back to our kids, to let them know who they are, where they come from, what industries we have in our province, and that they should be proud of them.
Hear, hear.
And I think this young man here, he deserves a big round of applause from everybody here for taking the time to do that. So let me be the first. Thank you for doing that, member. So Bill 207, because I know the Madam Speaker is going to reel me in here pretty quick, is the Primary Provincial Industries Recognition Statutes Amendment Act. Now, part of one of the challenges, and I want to give some credit too to Minister from Calgary, or not the Minister, the member from Calgary Foothills, had a great speech talking about that North Country up there where he grew up, the insightfulness of coming from that. I think we need more of that on both sides, you guys, especially on Mondays. Talk a little bit about your lived experiences in doing that. And Madam Speaker, the reason why he did that, and one of them was to talk about agriculture, but more over the bees. And the birds and the bees, I guess we can talk about those a little bit differently, but talking about the bees, they're actually raising and growing honey here. And the fact that Alberta does the most of that. And right outside of Spruce Grove, we've got the big group that pulls all that together. There's even one of our own ministers, avid beekeeper as well. But there's the point. Right now in our education system, first time in Western history, I think, that most people now live in an urban environment. They're not just one generation, they're a couple generations removed from the agriculture side of it. So with that urbanization, we get a lot of benefits, but we also miss where our stuff comes from and what we are as a province and where we came from. One of the other items we talked about on here also was fossil fuels. So resource development. I mean, Leduc #1 is just out that way. 1945, I think, is when that came in, and that changed Alberta's trajectory from being one of those provinces that was agrarian-based for the most part. A little challenge with some of the transportation side of it because we didn't have the cash to do it, to build up that. That actually sparked it. And a little company called Leadcore started out there. Bill Lady was the first guy running that dozer out on that line, Leduc Construction. And all of a sudden, that entire history of that little company grew into be something that headquarters out in Vancouver. They do tons of work all over the place. You can take pool construction, a number of these. And I'm going to say, and one of the things that we were talking about, and the member actually, I'm going to pay a lot of credit to you because I like what you said there, member, from Calgary Foothills is talking about primary, secondary, and tertiary industries. But I would propose this to you, sir, through you, Madam Speaker, to him. Before construction, there was nothing. So you can't have the facilities unless you have the construction, chicken and egg. But construction is one of those big industries where you have to pull everything together, and it's the hands that are out there on the equipment, it's the hands in the ditches, the laborers, it's the engineers that are pulling it together, it's the business development side of it. There's a ton of things that go in within those industries. And forestry, my gosh, 62% of our province is forested. The biggest polluter that we have is forest fires every year. And when it's not all up north, you got trees down south too, but you won't let us touch them. Got to take you around Calgary and show you around, brother. But the point of the matter is, when we're out on the road and we're talking about these things, a lot of us grew up understanding this, but our kids may not have. So when I'm out on the road through the economic corridor development side of it, and 3 years ago I'm over in Germany speaking to the leader of the Green Party, basically telling her we're twice the size of Germany, we only have 5.5 million people, it was 4.8 at the time, we're 62% forested, sitting on 6th largest known deposit on the planet when it comes to gas, 9th maybe, depending on how you look at it, 3rd largest for lithium, we heard that, and oil. And again, We're twice the size of Germany. They have 85 million people. So again, taking these messages across there. We work pretty hard on parity of esteem. I think we've done a pretty good job on that. But the fact that these kids don't necessarily get a chance to know how we keep the lights on, where it goes. And there was a councillor, Lauren Olsevik. Lauren, I'm going to give you a plug out there. He had kind of brought this up to me when I was first running. And he says, you have to, once you get back in there, you're going to have to make sure that people understand that the money's made in rural Alberta, so outside of the cities, it's counted in the cities. So that's what part of this will do. It'll show that these industries are absolutely integrated, but you can't have one without the other. So forestry, you know, growing up out west, so I grew up on a mixed farming operation. We had oil and gas leases that were around, so we'd go knock down trees and do that, learned up running equipment. My first big job in Edmonton, I came in as a young farm kid off the farm at 16 to work for an asphalt company, and I could do that because I could labor, you know how to work on a farm, but I could also run equipment. And then the forestry side of it, I've logged in areas where my grandfather did. So he reforested and replanted those trees, and there we are. So now my family growing up, my kids are on an acreage. They didn't grow up on the farm, but we have these connections, and I even had a little old sawmill. So showed the kids how we make and do things. So the fact that the member here again from Grand Prairie is bringing this forward is going to be very helpful. And the other one thing I want to do, you guys, I really, since it's Private Member Monday and I'm a private member, I do want to address a couple items that we've been batting back and forth as politicians. And I don't believe that there's another politician in here who actually worked on a pipeline project. Y'all are taking compliments. Okay, one person, oh yeah, you did. Okay, the one, me and this fellow over here, we actually worked in that industry, but the rest of you, you haven't done a darn thing. As politicians, you're running in, jumping over backwards to take credit for stuff where credit is not due. The people that built those things and that took the risk and threw their capital in it are actually the ones that did something. And quite frankly, Madam Speaker, through you to my colleagues on both sides, you want to do something good, get your fingers off the political pulse of the pipeline industry. That's why I've been pushing economic corridors so we can lock in an area so people know what the rule sets are, because it's become a political football depending on which way the wind goes. And to build these projects, it takes a ton of capital and time. And every time we have these type of debates where you think it's going to affect your next 4-year electoral cycle, you're hijacking 15, 20, 30, 50 years of prosperity. And this is the same message I take down south of the border too, you guys. So it's with kindness I'm saying this. But please, please, and if you're looking at TMX as the victory lap, that project went from $15 billion to over $40 billion, and it was a cluster because the government's got involved. We have to get back to a point with this bill, hopefully, that people understand our primary industries, but we as politicians get our hands off of that, that we actually put the policies in place to allow for our industries to thrive. Sorry, I got a little preachy there, Madam Speaker, but it's very near and dear to my heart. And again, working out in those industries and working with folks on that side. The other one, too, is when it comes down to our forestry sector. So there's all the planning for it, and we always think there's just the harvesting. There's a ton of planning that goes into that, too, managing these FMAs. The other one as well is and we've seen this in not only in Western Canada, but in the States as well, that our forestry management practices have changed. So all of a sudden we went to trying to hug everything to death and make sure that, you know, we didn't harvest it. And we're having a dickens of a time dealing with all of the forest fires that we're having. So we have to reconcile with that too, that it's okay to harvest and manage timber because our stuff is not the redwoods here, folks. It'll only live to about 80 years, the fuel load will go up and the bugs will get into it, and all of a sudden we're having nothing but problems trying to deal with forest fires. So getting that type of education back into the system so the next generations understand that you're actually doing good work by managing and harvesting those materials. The fact that, I think it was said in here in abundance, but our ag industry, we're one of the minority of the jurisdictions in the world that can actually outproduce, outpace, and feed the world, Madam Speaker. We're blessed with topsoil like nothing. Terrible for pipeline and great for growing crops around this Edmonton area. I mean, holy crow. There's not many places on the planet you can go and dig down 3 feet and you're still in black dirt. Like it's beautiful material. So making sure that we don't artificially go into some rhetoric about cow farts and everything else that goes along the lines, and we get all bent on eating bugs and everything else rather than producing crops. Understanding how we can produce our crops and feed the world. One of the things that we can do is no different than that, and we've heard it from the opposite side here today with a few of the members that I've mentioned and are outstanding that are on side with this. The world needs our energy. Geopolitics. The best thing that we can do is get clean energy to folks. Our kids need to know they should be proud of being part of that. So when I'm over in India and I'm talking to folks over there, and it was a stretch here for the last couple of years, and especially in January, that they were looking for secure, safe supply. And the only safe supply we should be talking about here in this House and pushing really hard, I believe, is food and energy security for safe supply. They need our stuff. And now the geopolitics, you're seeing how that's working out. It's showing how much more of a need for that investment. And even the member statement I said here today was based on that, Madam Speaker. That we have to be proud and supportive, and to let these kids know, which this member is doing here nicely, is on the front end. Cut through the Greta Thunberg sound bites, because she's so done now at this point. Whoever wants to listen to that, probably most people that did listen to her are embarrassed at this point of how dare you stuff that was going on. So the grown-ups in the crowd are looking at how we take our industries and deal with things properly.
Are there others that would like to join this debate? Maybe you shouldn't be wandering when I'm standing, but I can appreciate that you are ready to close debate. The Honourable Member for Grand Prairie.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Yeah, looking forward to, thank you first and foremost to every single member who spoke here today in support of this bill. Greatly appreciate every single person for this. I think this is is important for our young people to be able to understand these industries, understand how these build up Alberta, build up the world, and for us to continue to move this forward. So, couple key things. I think these really build up and build a proud Albertan and a proud Canadian here by talking about this right across our curriculum. I do just want to mention, I think this builds transparency into our education too as well when we're talking about what we're going to be, what our primary industries are. And thank you as well to Member Rosewell for bringing up the idea, and, from the member from Lloydminster Wainwright for bringing up the idea of the Fossil Fuel Appreciation Day. Brilliant. Thank you so very much. It's important that we know our history, and it's important that we know about this industry and just the significance of that too. And February 13th was the first day that we discovered oil in Leduc number 1. So it's a key day, and I think a key for that should be mentioned here too on record. Proud of this piece of legislation, and looking forward to continue moving this bill forward. And Madam Speaker, I move to end debate on second reading. I believe that's proper. No, I don't have to do that? I just sit down? Well, I'm gonna sit down.
The Honourable Member will know the use of proper names in this chamber is not appropriate. I realize you recognized your error. Honourable Members, the Honourable Member for Grand Prairie has moved second reading of Bill 207, the Primary Provincial Industries Recognition Statutes Amendment Act 2026. Does the Assembly agree to the motion for second reading? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. That is carried.
Bill 207, Primary Provincial Industries Recognition Statutes Amendment Act 2026 is now read a second time. Motions other than government motions? Motion 509, Mrs. Johnson.
The Honourable Member for Lacombe-Panoka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is an honour to rise today to introduce Motion 509, which calls on this Assembly to recognize the month of December as Christian Heritage Month. At its heart, this motion is about recognition. Recognition of history, of service, of community, and of the contributions that have helped shape our province. This motion isn't about elevating one belief over another, and it doesn't ask anyone to adopt or agree with a particular faith. It is simply about acknowledging the historical and cultural role that Christianity has played in Alberta's development, institutions, and community life, just as we do with other cultural and religious heritage months throughout the year. Madam Speaker, Alberta's story has always been shaped by many influences. Among them, Christians have played a foundational role stretching back to Alberta's early development and continuing strong today. From the earliest days of settlement, Christian churches and faith-based communities were often among the first to establish hospitals, social services, and schools, frequently in places where no government infrastructure yet existed. These contributions were not symbolic. They were deeply practical, responding to community needs with a firm sense of duty, grounded in Christian teachings of compassion and service. Instead of waiting for outside intervention, these communities met challenges head-on, championing the power of community to make a difference. Healthcare is a clear example of this legacy. Christian organizations played an instrumental role in Alberta's early healthcare system, paving the way for the publicly funded system that we rely on today. The Grey Nuns, also known as the Sisters of Charity in Montreal, were a key part of this development. At a time when Alberta was still very much a frontier society, they established some of the province's first hospitals, including the Edmonton General Hospital in 1895 and the Holy Cross Hospital in Calgary in 1891. Through this work, they helped introduce professional nursing, organized hospital care, and a commitment to serving everyone, at a time when there was minimal healthcare infrastructure established by the government. In 1943, this work evolved further with the formation of the Christian Health Association of Alberta, one of Alberta's earliest coordinated healthcare systems. It brought together not-for-profit Catholic hospitals and care providers and helped shape models of organized, public accessible care that continue to serve Albertans today. These hospitals were open to all, regardless of creed or background, and they demonstrate how Christian faith translates into public serving institutions that serve the common good. Social services tell a similar story. Christian organizations and churches have long been at the forefront of caring for those facing hardship and building the sense of connection and belonging that strong communities need. The well-known Salvation Army, which began its work in the province in 1887, has for more than a century provided shelter, food, and emergency supports, becoming one of the largest non-governmental providers of social services in Alberta. The YMCA and YWCA, both organizations with Christian origins active in Alberta since the early 1900s, support individuals and families across the province. Together, they provide vital community services including recreation, childcare, newcomer settlement, housing supports, employment programs, and services for women and families facing violence or instability. Churches have long served as meeting grounds for activities like charitable events and social gatherings. In underserved rural communities, they're more than just places of worship. They fill gaps in service and reinforce community identity and belonging by bringing people from different walks of life together. All of this reflects a long-standing commitment to serving those in need. Not for recognition or praise, but out of a deep sense of responsibility to care for others, a spirit captured in the words of Mark 10:45, "For the Son of Man came, not to be served, but to serve." Madam Speaker, education has also been an important focus within Christian tradition, seen as an essential not only for individual growth, but for the well-being of society more broadly. From early faith-based schools established by immigrant communities to post-secondary institutions like King's University and St. Joseph's College at the University of Alberta, Christian institutions have made meaningful contributions to Alberta's education system, combining the traditional academic curriculum with Christian ethics and theology, showing how faith and learning can work together. They also provide a model that other faith communities can look to as they establish institutions of their own within Alberta's diverse society. Madam Speaker, no institution or organization succeeds without people. That is why it's important to recognize the many individual volunteers, often motivated by their faith, who give their time and energy to help others. Across Alberta, these volunteers contribute millions of hours every year. They run food banks, mentor young people, help neighbours in crisis, and support communities in quiet but meaningful ways. Their efforts reduce isolation, strengthen connections, and reflect qualities that many Albertans share, regardless of faith, including compassion, generosity, dignity, forgiveness, and a willing to serve. It's this kind of steady, thoughtful work that encourages us all to do better and lead by example. Beyond the contributions made by the Christian community in Alberta, Christian Heritage Month should be recognized, and particularly for the month of December, because for the billions of Christians around the world, December marks the month of Christmas, commemorating the birth of Jesus Christ. In Alberta, Christmas is one of the most widely observed holidays, influencing everything from community gatherings and cultural traditions to charitable giving and volunteer efforts. Many of our province's most significant fundraising and outreach campaigns take place during this season, reflecting that spirit of generosity that benefits people of all backgrounds. Recognizing December as Christian Heritage Month highlights the spiritual roots of a widely celebrated tradition while acknowledging its broader cultural impact. It does not mean an endorsement of one faith over another. It does not minimize the importance of other faiths. Instead, it provides context and understanding for traditions that are already deeply woven into daily life. Madam Speaker, Alberta already recognizes a range of cultural and religious heritage months. April is recognized as Sikh Heritage Month, August, Hindu Heritage Month, and October, Islamic Heritage Month. These recognitions affirm Alberta's diversity and show respect for the communities that contribute to our rich social fabric. Recognizing Christian Heritage Month in December is consistent with this balanced approach, and it's in line with the recognition already given by cities across Alberta like Red Deer and provinces like Ontario, which formally recognized December as Christian Heritage Month in 2025 through its Bill 83. At its core, Motion 509 is about recognition, respect, and understanding. It's an opportunity to affirm the role Christianity has played in shaping Alberta's institutions, values, and communities while continuing to uphold a society that respects all beliefs. Madam Speaker, by supporting this motion, we honour the past, we recognize the present, and we deepen our understanding of the communities that have helped to build this province. So I encourage all members to consider and support Motion 509 in that spirit. Thank you.
Are there others to join this debate? Seeing the honourable member for Calgary Northeast.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on this important motion. It's an important motion because it talks about the diversity of our province, and it talks about the important debate that we must have on diversity, equity, inclusion, people from all faiths, people from all traditions, people from all cultures who have called this province their home. Just 1 second, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I come from Sikh faith, and I want to share a story about my own faith before I come to this motion. This story is about early 16th century, and the sun was setting over Saidpur. The sky was red, the dust was hung in the air, and birds were returning to their nests. And in that village, there were two homes that stood, not far from each other, but those two homes were worlds apart. One was a mansion, tall gates, rich carpets, plates overflowing with food. And this was the house of a person named Malik Pago, a man of power, money, and pride. The other was a small, worn-out home with mud walls, wooden door, the smell of sweat, hard work, hard labor. And this was the home of Pailalo. He was a carpenter with rough hands, dirty clothes, but clean heart. And when the first Guru of Sikhs entered Saidpur, the first Guru, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, entered Saidpur, he did not walk towards the mansion. he walked towards the small home. He sat on the floor beside Pailalo, and he ate dry roti. No silky carpet, no luxury, just honest, hard-earned food. And Malik Pago came to know about this incident, and his pride burned. How can this holy man reject my feast and sit in that poor man's house? And Malik Pago stormed to Pailalo's house, barefoot, red-faced, and fists folded in anger. And he said, "How dare you refuse to eat my food and have the food at this poor carpenter's house?" Guru Nanak did not argue. He did something powerful. He raised his hands with Pailalo's roti in one hand and Malik Pago's in right. And then slowly Guru Nanak squeezed. And from Malik Pago's food, blood dripped. And from Pailalo's roti, milk flowed. And Guru Nanak said, "This is filled with blood of greed. And this is filled with with milk of honest labor." And that very moment, Madam Speaker, the mansion felt small and the small house felt infinite. And Guru Nanak showed the importance of honest labor. Honest labor is one of the three core pillars of Sikh faith. Earn honestly, worship, and share with all. Three pillars of Sikhism. And when Alberta NDP government announced April as Sikh Heritage Month, it was not just about recognizing one month. It was about recognizing these values of earning honest labor. And people of my faith, Sikh faith, have followed this value of to build their families, to build our communities, and to build our province. And they stand behind our first Guru, his teachings, and his values. But today, the questions are up in the air right in front of our eyes. Does this government care about today's Pailalos, hardworking Albertans earning honest labor? Or does this government care about today's Malik Pagos like Sam Mirish? Does this government care about health care, education, and cost of living of hardworking Albertans? Or does this government care about pensions, safety, and minimum wage of these hardworking Albertans? These questions are up in the air, Madam Speaker, and they deserve answers, real answers, and right now. And similarly, Madam Speaker, let me share another story that comes from Islam. And this story is about when Kaaba in Makkah was being rebuilt. And all the tribes were taking part in that work. The walls were almost complete, and then a dispute broke out over who should place that important black stone in that position. Each tribe wanted this honor for itself, and the dispute became pretty serious. It reached to a point where there was a risk of fighting between them. And to resolve the issue, they agreed that the next person who would walk into the area next would be the one who will decide the matter. And the next person to arrive was Muhammad. And back then he was not yet prophet, but he was called as Al-Amin, which means the trustworthy. And the tribes accepted him as the one who will settle the dispute. He calmed that moment, listened to all sides, and asked for a piece of cloth. He placed the black stone in the middle of the cloth and asked the representative from each tribe to hold one edge. And all the tribes held that edge, and they moved the stone to a perfect position where it was supposed to be placed on the wall. And then Muhammad walked and picked up that stone and placed it on the wall. And that was the solution that allowed all tribes to share the honor and prevented the conflict between them. And this is not just a story about one human, it is the story of leadership that values fairness, the leadership that values equality, a leadership that resolves conflicts and not ignite conflicts. And when Alberta NDP announced August as Islamic Heritage Month, it was about celebrating these values of fairness, equality, and leadership that care about everyone. And today, we have these questions in front of us. That do we actually care about fairness? Do we actually care about equality in our society? Do we actually treat everyone equally? And Madam Speaker, these are the values that should be close to our heart when we are making policy in government, when we are going out in the society and treating others, neighbors, strangers as equal human beings. And Madam Speaker, let me share another story about Jesus that my friend told me. And he told me that it was a night before a major moment in his life.
The Honourable Deputy Government House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker. I rise hopefully on a very short debate and speech, but to engage with members opposite in what was the speech we just heard from the member from Calgary Northeast, which mentioned Jesus approximately once with the dying seconds of a speech. This is not a partisan motion. This is private members' time. It's not an executive motion brought forward by Executive Council. This is particularly something that, rightfully so, should precede and supersede a political dispute. To somehow bring in partisan attack lines surrounding contemporary questions of the day that would normally make their appearance during question period, surrounding allegations of corruption, etc., and to focus on not any content to do with the religion in question, I think is really missing the mark. And we need to, as a society, be beyond pure political, polemical debate. We need to find some common ground. And if it is not a particular religion, let it at least be that religion is good and not something that should be pulled down to the muck and mire of political disputes. What we've seen from the member from Calgary Northeast is a complete dismissal of this precedent that we have in our chamber, that faith is an important part that forms our province of many different varieties, whether it is the Sikh faith that the member opposite very eloquently articulated his own experience in, or Islamic faith that he brought a second story up for many minutes of the limited debate time that we have surrounding motions other than government motions. So I will ask members, let's find common ground on pre-political commitment to the importance of faith. And if we have substantive debates surrounding the creation of Christian Heritage Month as an acknowledgement surrounding in particular the charitable works, the education, the healthcare delivery, and community service that Christians have contributed to this province, let's have that debate. Instead of having debates, particularly about irrelevant topics or politicizing the importance of faith in our society. It's my plea to members opposite during this time that is a private members' debate time, not government debate time. So bringing in partisan attacks towards government, I think, is missing the mark, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker.
Are there others to join debate on the motion? The Honourable Member for Laxton and Parkland.
I appreciate it, Madam Speaker. And again, it's Private Members Monday, and I want to thank the member from Lacombe-Panoka for bringing this forward. I think it's very timely. I think that motion 509, again, be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly urged the Government of Alberta recognize the month of December as Christian Heritage Month in acknowledgement of foundational role that Christianity has played in shaping Alberta's institutions, values, and communities. The role of Christian organizations, churches, and individuals have played a contributing to Alberta's social fabric through charitable work, education, healthcare delivery, community services, and the particular significance that December holds for many Christians around the world, in the month of which Christmas is celebrated in the Commonwealth, or commemorative birth of Jesus Christ. So, Madam Speaker, oftentimes we say that there should be a separation of church and state. Obviously, we all believe in that, but also recognizing our roots, recognizing those core faiths and principles. And I'm going to bring a story in here, since other folks were too. I was down in Lubbock, Texas this summer, down at the Ports of Plains Conference, and there was a congressman down there, Congressman Jody Arrington, and he had about 20 minutes to give a presentation to the group. It was pretty neat to hear that he acknowledged the snow cowboy from up north within his first 20 seconds of his speech, thanking that those common values and principles went back and forth. And one of the things that he did share was there was a person from France that came over to the United States, and they were trying to figure out why that Constitution worked. Like, why did this kind of country come together, and why did it have all these things it was able to accomplish? And the interesting part that the observation from this person from France said, it wasn't the Constitution, it wasn't the governments, it wasn't the institutions. It was based that the Constitution itself and the guiding morals and principles were based in Christianity. So there's the deep foundation of what we have. A lot of our systems that we have in place is based on a guiding principle. And with that principle, it facilitates the conversations that we're having here today. That in our province and in our country, both north and south here, we can have these open conversations because of those key principles that allow that, to allow in different faiths, to allow in different discussions. And I think it's fundamental that we carry on with that. I'm very proud that the member brought this forward, and to unabashedly be recognizing Christianity as one of those. And I've had a lot of friends from other faiths that came up and over the years when things were getting a little bit contentious, and said that they appreciated our faith. They appreciated the fact that of what we believe in, and we can have those conversations. And they also told me one thing, Madam Speaker, to you through the rest of the group here, is for us as Christians not to be ashamed of who we are and the faith that we hold, or the contributions that we've made. So with that, I'm very pleased to have this, and I very much appreciate the other members' faith in having those conversations, and hope that we support this in good conscience, that this motion will go forward. So again, thank you to the member from Leduc, Panoka, for doing this.
The honourable member for Edmonton City Centre.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm happy to rise and take the opportunity to speak to motion 509 and my support for this bill, for this motion. Because, Madam Speaker, I grew up in the church. Brethren Assemblies here in Edmonton. My parents met at Sharing Gospel Chapel, just south of White Avenue. My family attended Northmount Bible Church, which later moved north, became Clairview Bible Chapel. Spent my summers at Meadow Lodge in Bethel Bible Camps, near Cooking Lake and Westlock, respectively. So as a kid, yeah, I learned and studied the Bible. I was right in there for every memorization contest, every sword drill. Sword drill, by the way, is kind of when you have a contest, it's like, how fast can you find the verse that they shout out in the Bible? So Christianity really was a big part of my life for over 30 years. Now, I will say, Madam Speaker, I no longer consider myself a man of faith. In truth, at this point in my life, I'm quite agnostic. But, hey, the story of that journey, I think, is a good one, but more than I've got time for here today. What I will say, and I think what's important, is that I support this motion, 509, on declaring a Christian Heritage Month, because I can absolutely say that my values in my life, and certainly in the work that I do as an elected official, are deeply informed by what I learned in church, at camp, from a whole wide range of Christian thinkers. I can tell you I went through a very heavy C.S. Lewis phase in my 20s. Read literally everything he wrote and owned most of it. But as I said, the values that I learned in church and from the Bible have had a huge influence on my life. They were a big part of what led me to decide to run for office, are fundamental to the values that inform my work. We look back to some of the commands in the Old Testament, like Psalm 82, 3 and 4, defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and oppressed, rescue the weak and needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked. Proverbs 31, 8 and 9, speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. Or, the declaration in Malachi 3:5 that God stands against those who defraud laborers of their wages, who oppress the widows and the fatherless, and deprive the foreigners among you of justice. I think of the words and the example of Jesus in the Gospels, how he questioned the ruling elite. For me personally, I love his use of story and metaphor, how he used them to turn concepts of power on their heads with his parables, with the Beatitudes. His insistence on mercy and grace over judgment, that people weren't made to serve the law, but the law was made to serve people. How he sought out people who were rejected and marginalized by the people who held power, the outsiders in their society, and took the time to sit with them, spend time with them, support them. But most of all, for myself in the life of Jesus, the understanding that true leadership isn't about power, it's about service. Look at John 13, where it says, Jesus knew that he'd been given power over everything, that he'd been sent by God and would return to God. So what did he do? He got up from dinner, that being the Last Supper. He stripped down and he washed his disciples' feet. One of the lowliest jobs that anyone could be asked to do. That was his example of what you do with power, Mr. Speaker. So those are values that have shaped my life, core to the Christian faith, and values that are worth celebrating. Now, to be clear, they aren't values that are exclusive to Christianity. They are reflected in many other faiths, Islam and Judaism, the fellow Abrahamic religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism. Core to all of those religions are the fundamental values of living humbly, seeking and defending justice for all, living a life of service, being ethical in our conduct, treating others as we want to be treated ourselves. And we recognize that indeed, as other members have acknowledged today, we do have months dedicated to recognizing and celebrating the contributions and influence on our family, friends, and neighbors of those faiths, with Sikh Heritage Month in April, Canadian Jewish Heritage Month in May, Islamic Heritage Month in October, Hindu Heritage Month in November, and so the motion today is to add a Christian Heritage Month in December. That's reasonable. I know during our time in government, we work to have equal representation of all faiths. I know here in this assembly, for the daily prayer, we included a wide range of prayers and meditations from a lot of different faiths. This is a similar effort. To be clear, I am a firm believer in the separation between church and state, any church, any faith, and state. Fully on board with Jesus' advice to give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and to God what belongs to God. But in this case, we're not talking about elevating any particular faith, as the member for Macomb-Panoka noted. We're not talking about the politicization of faith that sadly we do see happening so much south of the border and other countries around the world where faith is used as a tool of oppression. The kind of politicization that has been a destructive force throughout history, but that's not what we are talking about or supporting here today. Simply a discussion about adding one more faith to those we recognize with a Heritage Month. And I see the good work that Christian churches are doing in my own constituency. Robertson Wesley United Church, a welcoming and inclusive church that just a couple years ago celebrated their 110th anniversary. I was proud to join them for that. They are dedicated to championing social justice, protecting the environment, helping connect people in the community that are in need with housing, food, and other supports. Strong supporter of the LGBTQ2S+ community. As they say on their website, community is not just a place, it's a promise that will show up for each other, speak up for the silence, and never stop reaching towards a more just world. And I know that the Christian faith, Mr. Speaker, has been a source of hope, strength, social change. I think of liberation theology, a movement that grew amongst Catholic theologians in Latin America during the 60s. A belief that, to quote Jesuit Jean-Louis Segundo, the Christian faithful are also obliged to promote social justice and mindful of the precept of the Lord to assist the poor. Garnered some Protestant supporters as well, and inspired grassroots communities that worked with marginalized populations in Latin America to advocate for land reform, labor rights, democracy. Influences were also felt in South America with Christian opposition to apartheid, provided a theological framework for folks like Bishop Desmond Tutu. And of course, in a similar vein, we know that Christianity did become a source of inspiration for Africans and Caribbeans that were sold into the slave trade. They took what was admittedly at that time a tool of oppression, because unfortunately there were those who used faith to excuse slavery. But they took that and they turned it on its head, much as Jesus often did himself. They adopted the stories of the Jewish people's times as slaves in Egypt, their journey to freedom under Moses. They rooted their faith in the words of Jesus in the Gospel of Luke, that he was sent to proclaim that captives will be released and the oppressed will be set free. You know, it provided a foundation for a lot of their community and culture that's given us so much. Just a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to join the National Black Coalition of Canada, their Edmonton chapter, for their 40th annual Black Gospel Night. It's powerful, Mr. Speaker. It's good music. And it's rooted in the history and the culture of the Christian faith, as it was embraced by the black community. And of course, has gone on to be a source of inspiration for a lot of other things. I know the Christian faith has been there for all kinds of art through history. Some of the most epic, I think, in Western civilization. You know, Handel's Messiah, Da Vinci's Last Supper, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. I had the privilege of seeing that when I was in Rome. Architecture, like, you know, so many amazing churches we see, the biblical film epics of the 50s. There's even been a few pretty decent Christian rock albums, Mr. Speaker. I was a bit of an expert on that in junior high and high school. But all that to say, Mr. Speaker, I think this is something we can agree on across the aisle. That simply, we recognize the power of faith. We recognize how it can be an inspiration for folks during difficult times. We recognize how it has inspired some of the strongest social movements in our history. That though at times faith has been weaponized and misused, sadly sometimes by political rulers and elite who themselves do not show many aspects of that faith, it has continued to be a powerful force in community, in the grassroots, for individuals, for leaders who have done great things, for people who have created incredible art, and indeed for people who continue to do very good things every day here in our province. So I'll be happy, Mr. Speaker, to vote in favor of motion 509. Thank you.
The honourable member for Grand Prairie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Really appreciate the member bringing this motion forward. I think it's an important motion for us to acknowledge Christian heritage and our faith. And it's interesting. Just yesterday was Palm Sunday. Today is Holy Monday. We're building up to Easter, coming into this coming week on Good Friday and then Easter Monday. One of the most significant weeks in the Christian world. So I think this is a timely motion as well. And I think many people know that this is that I'm a man of faith myself. I'm a Christian, and I spent a lot of time in Bible school. And this is something that's close to my heart. So I'm looking forward to speaking on this today. It's truly honored, and I think this is timely. I also want to just touch on a few things. The members bring this forward as in December during Christmas time. While Christmas historically wasn't actually Jesus' birth, it is a great time to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, the gift giving that God gave the world when Jesus came in. I just want to pinpoint a couple things here about the birth of Jesus Christ. Jesus wasn't, his lineage wasn't one of grandeur. There was people of grandeur in his lineage, but he also had some people with pretty messy stories. And in it, this is something that the Bible speaks about, is that this is an honest lineage. It's an honest and clear way of showcasing just who Jesus was, and that it's people from anywhere, and no matter from high stature to low, he has that in his history. Mr. Speaker was born in humility. Jesus was born in a manger. Born to someone who worked in construction, a dad that worked in construction, and probably to a young mom. And so in this, we also see just that he wasn't born. He wasn't born in a castle. He wasn't born in the big leagues. He was born to a very humble parents. And this is where the story of Christianity really begins, of a moment of faith where we get to actually make a choice and see whether or not we can see ourselves in that story too as well. And this is the very foundation of our faith, starting in humility, growing in grace, and also forgiveness. And so I'm thankful for this. This is really the foundation of our Western world. That these are the very cornerstone of kindness, and be able to give of ourselves of what we are able to give, and be able to give to others from what we have. And this is important because this also builds our communities, set upon a cornerstone and upon the institutes and values of generosity, of truth, of working hard and excellence, but also belief in Jesus Christ. And so I just want to thank the member as well for bringing this forward. Now, based on that here and on these values, there's many other organizations that have built this province. And I just want to speak about those for a few minutes. One of these is the Salvation Army, that I believe has been in Alberta since the late 1800s, 1887, somewhere around there. And since then, they've been housing people, been feeding people in my community. They do an excellent job of fundraising and giving food out and taking care of our community, doing it with dignity, doing it with faith, and encouraging the communities around them. So these are, and then across the province, they house hundreds of people too as well, because of their faith and because of their deep roots, because they want to care and be merciful to the widow and the orphan. These are cornerstones of the Christian faith, and I think this is important to mention as well. In healthcare, our Christian health organization, as well as the Catholic Grey Nuns, they're our oldest healthcare in the province. The very first provider of healthcare was a Catholic or Christian organization wanting to bring healing to people physically and also spiritually at the same time. These are strong moments, I think, where the very foundation of our province has been built upon. And I do want to thank the member for bringing this motion forward. I do encourage everyone for this. We do have other months as well where we celebrate other faiths, but I think December is an appropriate month, given that just the rich history, the birth of Jesus Christ as we celebrate the generosity of that. And I just want to thank everyone, and I would encourage everyone in this house to vote for this motion as well. Thank you.
The honourable member for Cypress Medicine Hat.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of Motion 509 and recognizing December as Christian Heritage Month in Alberta. This motion offers us an opportunity not only to acknowledge history, but also to reflect thoughtfully on the ideas, values, and institutions that have helped shape our province into what it is today. From the earliest days of Alberta's development, Christian communities were amongst those who laid the groundwork for many of our important institutions. Churches weren't only a place of worship, but centers of education, care, and community life. They helped establish schools, hospitals, charities, and social services that support families even today. They supported newcomers and the vulnerable. These contributions were instrumental in building the social fabric of Alberta. At the heart of this heritage are values that continue to resonate today, such as compassion, justice, service, humility, and respect for the dignity of every individual. These principles are reflected in scriptures such as Micah 6:8. What does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love, mercy, and to walk humbly. This call to justice and mercy aligns closely with the ideas we strive to uphold in public service and governance. We also see in Matthew 22 the commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart and bow down not to any idol, and to love your neighbor as you love yourself. A principle that has inspired generations of Albertans to care for one another, to volunteer, and to build strong, supportive communities. Similarly, Galatians 5:13 reminds us to serve one another humbly in love. These teachings have helped shape the culture of generosity and responsibility that continues to benefit our province. This motion is about acknowledging a significant historical influence, one thread among many that has contributed to our shared story. And I appreciate the member opposite bringing forward Jesus' use of parables and stories. Because one parable that I actually have here is the parable of the talents, which talks about taking the talent that were given to you and multiplying. And I really see that in the fabric of Alberta. We've taken a new frontier and turned it into one of the most prosperous places in all of North America. And I think that that is something that we continue to strive forward to. In Matthew 5:9, we're told, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." This message is especially meaningful in today's context. It reminds us that our goal is not division, but of unity. Christian Heritage Month can be an opportunity to foster dialogue, promote mutual respect, and strengthen the bonds that unite us as Albertans. As I was writing this, I was taken to Jeremiah 29:7, where it also says in the Word, also, seek peace and prosperity for the city. Now, the city in this context and in this teaching was about city-states, very much what the province we see now is. It's important because as we seek peace and prosperity for our province, it lays the foundation for generations to thrive. Jeremiah 29:11-13 say, "For I know the plans I have for you, declare the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." And hope and a future, I think, is something all Albertans from every faith, from every corner of this province can get behind. What we're doing here today with this motion, we're affirming that Alberta's story is enriched by many influences and that our understanding for the past help build a stronger Alberta moving forward. Let us honor the contributions of those who've shaped our province before us so that we can continue to build and uphold those values of respect and service to our fellow man as we push forward into the Alberta of tomorrow. I encourage all members of this House to support Motion 509. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I don't see any other speakers, so the mover of the motion, the honourable member from Lacombe-Panoka, would you care to use up to 5 minutes to close?
I would. Thank you, Mr.
Please go
Speaker.
ahead.
Well, it is my pleasure to rise and close debate on motion 509. And I'd like to begin by thanking those who took the time to speak on this motion, my colleagues on this side of the aisle and opposite. Sharing various perspectives enriches discussion, allows for a fair assessment of this motion. And as I said at the outset, Mr. Speaker, this motion is one which at its very core is about recognition. Recognition of the historical and cultural significance of a community that is an important part of Alberta's social fabric. Since early settlement, the Christian community has played a pivotal role in Alberta's development. From helping build out the whole health and social infrastructure that Albertans continue to rely on today, to spreading values of compassion, generosity, and service, which resonate broadly with the people of this province. And Christians are truly a special community that deserve to be honoured. Motion 509, through recognizing December, the holiest month of the year for Christians, as Christian Heritage Month, it seeks to increase awareness of the Christian community in Alberta and shine a light on its contributions. As a diverse society, Alberta has always believed in the importance of respecting the many different cultural and religious communities that make up this province. We have a Sikh Heritage Month in April, Hindu Heritage Month in August, and Islamic Heritage Month in October, and we've heard stories about those this afternoon. Having Christian Heritage Month in December would be a natural addition, affirming Alberta's place as a welcoming province that values faith and people. And with that in mind, Mr. Speaker, I close debate.
Honourable members, the member for Lacombe-Panoka has moved motion 509. All those in favour of motion 509, please now say aye. Aye. All of those opposed, please now say no. The ayes have it. That motion is carried. The Honourable Deputy Government House Leader.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and for the productive private members' afternoon. I now would like to move that the Assembly be adjourned until tomorrow at 1:30.
The Honourable Deputy Government House Leader has moved to adjourn the Assembly until 1:30 p.m. tomorrow. All of those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All of those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. We are indeed adjourned until 1:30 p.m. tomorrow.